Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday to you all. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled, sponsored by the King Pilled Discord, the finest place on the internet, the top secret society, super top secret. We welcome you to join us there. Go to kingpilled.com and sign up, and you can join us for the Schizo stream tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be looking at the monument mythos, secrets behind the Washington Monument, secret societies even. Should be a good one. Anybody who's in the Discord is welcome to it. So for those of you who are already in there, this is your alert. I'll post another one later this afternoon reminding you guys, and then I will post another one at the time that we start. But for those of you who are not part of the community yet, this is your reminder to join. This is going to be a very video heavy one, and I'm hoping I can get through all of this today because this is some good stuff. The meme magic is just off the charts lately, and I whittled down as many as I could, but I had to keep some of them. They just, the show must go on. The show maybe is going to have to go on a little longer than normal, but it's going to happen. So, real quick, I want to answer a question here in the chat. Philandes said, where can I get the HH clip you play at the end? I'll drop it in the, when I do the Astrolabe master thread after this, I'll drop the OGC tweet that I got it from. I'll drop that at the end of the thread. So be on the lookout for that if you're on Twitter, at RealKingPilled. I do a master thread at the end of the Astrolabe where I drop all of the links, everything that I played or showed. Yeah, I'll drop it in there. You guys can get it there. I'll actually drop two of them. There's one that the OGC one made, which is the one I use at the end, and then some of the Dark Maga guys made an updated version. And I've thought about replacing the one there with the updated one, but they didn't make it downloadable, so I've got to go screen cap and all that. So I'm just too busy to do it. But I'll drop both of those in the master thread, so you guys can get that. Straight Buster says he's out of Zen. It is truly an unlucky day. Well, fortunately for me, I'm out of Zen, but I have a rogue. The rogue peppermint is absolute banger. It is so good. Tastes, especially as we're coming on to the end of the year, starting to think about wintertime, the holiday season, one of my favorite times of the year. Very feeling festive. So I've got a festive rogue in today. I like the rogues. I was talking with Buck Johnson this last weekend about it because he had one of these. That's why I went and got it. The rogues are nice. I like how juicy they are. They're big old fat lip pillows. And they're really juicy. I like it juicy and thick rogue lip pillows. Is Mrs. King Pill dipping pumpkin spice Zen? I don't think she's really that. I probably like the pumpkin spice stuff more than she does, and I don't like it all that much. But she actually. She's pretty hard with her. She has her like sweet drinks that she likes because she's a girl, but I'm more of a sweet guy than she is. So she really likes likes espresso. She likes it not completely black, but probably blacker than I do. All right, enough messing around here. Let's dive in. First of all, I got to soften you guys up. Got to get you right in the heart, straight to the soul. Meet Liam. A New York boy with a rare brain disorder and growth hormone deficiency, who got a very special 8th birthday letter from a very special person. This is the side of Trump the media will never show you.
Here, sorry. Can you read it? Out loud? Yeah. Sure. It says, Dear Liam, happy 8th birthday. Mrs. Trump and I hope you enjoy this special occasion surrounded by the love of your family and friends. We are so encouraged by the strength and determination you have shown throughout your young life and send our love and best wishes to you as you continue to fight. Remember, you are never alone, and we are keeping you in our thoughts and prayers for continued care and good health. May God bless you and your family. Stay strong. Sincerely. Can you tell me who signed that? He knew it was your birthday coming up? What do you say to him?
Thank you. I love you.
What else do you say?
Thank you.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I had tears in my eyes the first time I was watching that, especially the sign language at the end. That one got me. Probably would have gotten me before my son was born, but especially after he was born, this sort of thing just gets me straight in the soul. Shout out to this little guy. Okay, now I'm gonna yank your chain in a completely different direction now. Shout out to, oops, hold on, stop playing. Wait. Shout out to Seller in the chat. He DM'd me this video this morning, and in honor of Friday the 13th, and I'm going to share it with you guys. I don't know why it tells me that I haven't followed these when I have. So Sloppy Joe Stalin on Twitter @AndThenSports. Check out this. We've got our meme making boys. They're putting them together. These are the most important guys on the internet. The guys cranking these out.
Coming this fall. A sleepy little town in Ohio. So calm, so peaceful. Not for long. They didn't know what was on their doorstep. A horror like you've never seen before. Not all outsiders play nice. But once they're here, how do you get them to go back?
They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Temporary protected status. If they're protecting them, what are they doing to you?
Any motive established? No, sir. Any witnesses?
I understand there's a possibility you may have picked up someone in conjunction with this crime. Have you anything to say on that?
I have no knowledge.
Shout out to our video making boys, giving us some nice creepypasta for as we begin edging closer and closer to Halloween. Yes, I saw edging. I said edging. I wonder if this cat story is still going to be in the news by the time Halloween gets here, because oh my goodness, like people aren't completely in the mood for the creepypasta stuff just yet, but everyone gets there as soon as Halloween gets closer and the material is abundant. We'll see if this story persists that long. Got some more. Again, shout out to Sloppy Joe Stalin on Twitter. That's a great name. @AndThenSports, if you guys want to go follow him. A fellow sports ball appreciator. All right, we got some more. This is not, this is just a good one that I've had in the hopper here for a little bit, and I know we've got some military boys out there. You'll appreciate this one.
What keeps you going? Is it the caffeine? No. Is it the nicotine? No, not that either. Is it therapy? Therapy definitely helps, but that's not it either. Why, how do you keep doing this? How do you keep going? I want to be the reason people have intrusive thoughts. You want to give people intrusive thoughts? I want to be their intrusive thoughts. I want all my enemies to think of me randomly Unbidden. Caffeine, nicotine, and therapy don't keep you going, but just the fact that you can be somebody's intrusive thought is what keeps you going? Yes, I exist out of spite. I exist out of spite for all who know me. That doesn't seem that healthy. Honestly, that seems not healthy. At this point, we're just doing whatever we can to get by. You know what I mean? That's fair. I'm gonna start existing to become people's intrusive thoughts too. I'm glad I could be such a powerful influence on you. Let's be people's intrusive thoughts together.
It's a high calling. Let us be people's intrusive thoughts together. Okay. Here we have Lord of the Rings meets the Good Old Boys podcast. This is from Brian Ramelli on Twitter. He's a great follow. Go follow him. This is art. Art of the highest order.
In the swamp shower where the trailers stand in line, Frodo's in the mud drinking homemade shine. Bill was on the porch telling tales all day long. Everything was quiet till the ring came along. Kendall rode up on his mule named Joe, said the ring's trouble, we gotta hit the road. With the swamp behind and the mountains ahead, we're just good old boys doing what Gandalf said. Frodo's carrying the ring and it's dragging slow, but we're marching through the mud with a steady flow. Aragorn's a tracker hunting coons at night. Gimli swinging axes, but his aim ain't right. Legolas is prepping, shooting butts off logs. Harwin's painting toenails, yelling at the dogs. Saruman's a neighbor's always causing grief, scheming in his tower like a backwoods thief. With the swamp behind and the mountains ahead, we're just good old boys doing what Gandalf said. Frodo's carrying the ring and it's dragging slow, but we're marching through the mud with a steady flow. Frodo's feeling rough, that ring's getting mean. Sam's frying up catfish, keeping Frodo lean. Boromir's all tangled, lost in the dark. Galadriel's telling fortunes in the back of her yard. Gone that we're cousin, we don't bring to town, but he's family, so we keep him around. With the swamp behind and the mountains ahead, we're just good old boys doing what Gandalf said. Frodo's carrying the ring and it's dragging slow, but we're marching through the mud with a steady flow.
It's so good. Yeah, there's a Harry Potter one out there as well. I have that one. I was going to play it today, but I couldn't find it. I know that I have it bookmarked, going back and forth, up and down the bookmarks, and they don't all populate at the same time, so couldn't come across it. I was like, oh, whatever. All right. There's been a trend lately of celebrities, well-known celebrities, sort of starting to depart from this. There's a period of time there for, 10 years, maybe, something like that, where you just did not get major celebrities doing anything but fall all over themselves to fawn over the regime narratives. It was like they said nothing, or they were just effusive in proclaiming regime propaganda. Now we've got a definite trend of that changing. And one of the greatest celebrities of all, this one goes out to the ladies. I know there's a few of you here in the chat. I've seen Kate. I see Slow Boy. Some of the ladies are here. This one's for you.
A friend of mine is a federal judge in Italy, and he just retired because he told me, Fabio, I cannot believe where our country is today. And I said, why? What's happening? He goes like, number one, Italian citizen, they are fifth class citizen, not even second class. They're fifth class citizen.
Meaning?
Meaning, then everything, the government supply everything to the immigrant. Everything's for free for the immigrant. The pension plan is pretty much gone. You know, you have old people, 89 years old, they go and collect their pension plan. The government says, go home because we have no money. But in the meantime, they give free phone, free everything, free
this
home.
This is a similar complaint we hear in America.
But but this has been going for many, many, many years in Europe. And they're to the point where, like, my friend who's a federal judge in Italy said, you know, I can't take this anymore and I'm going to retire. I mean, our police don't want anything to do. In the middle of major city, you will have 40, 50 people from Arab country, from Africa. This is a major, during the day, major square. They get around 40, 50 guys, they get 5 or 6 women, and they rape them right there on the street. The police can be 10, 15 feet away, and the police don't want anything to do, because if they get into confrontation, then, if they beat up these people, they're going to be racist, and so on. And my friend told me it got to a point where law do not apply to these people, all the immigrant. They don't. They can do whatever they want. Their jail system is full, so these people, even if they commit crime, they get arrested, they get released the next day. So they commit more crime, they get arrested, they get released the next day. I mean, it's like that constantly every day. You turn the TV on, it's constantly, you know.
I'll be curious to see if this turns into some sort of scandal. If Italian leadership goes after him, or the EU goes after him for hate speech or something like that. I mean, that's the time that we live in. It wouldn't be shocking to me if it did. It also may just be absolutely nothing. Screwed Up Rebellion says Ron Paul's stream today was titled, "Are the Barbarians Already Here?" Based. Shout out to the good doctor. Now, I play all this for you mostly, I mean, because it's significant, it's newsworthy, it's funny, but mostly so you could see this line right here. This one. Scott Pressler on steroids. I was howling last night when I saw this because it's totally true. Fabio is Scott Pressler on steroids. Meme boys, get to work here. You've got Scott Pressler is beating the pavement in Pennsylvania, absolutely dominating the voter registration game. His ground game is second to none. I hope that's, I don't want to, ground game. I don't want to think about anything else. Go find some way to put together some sort of a positive propaganda piece about Scott Pressler with Fabio. It would put Scott Pressler's head on Fabio's body, make some AI video or something about the epic ground game he's got going on. I mean, I'm retarded. I can't do this stuff myself, but I see the potential. Okay, before we get to more meme magic and debate reaction stuff, I've told you guys before that I'm expecting over the next, it could be a matter of weeks. I think the tide is going to change at some point, and it's going to be palpable, where all of a sudden some major Democrats start bailing from the acceptable narrative. And I don't mean the guys, the people who are already outsiders like RFK and Tulsi. What I'm saying is like RFK and Tulsi making the move that they did to become explicitly pro-Trump is going to open up the door for a lot of other Democrats. And I think there's going to be surprising names among it. I don't know if this is an example of that, but it's possible. So I want you to take this, pin it up as a data point, and we'll just keep it in the back of your mind. Breaking. Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal says citizens will be shocked, astonished, and appalled when the truth comes out about the Trump assassination attempt. Is there no audio, or is the audio too low? I see that there's no sound. Well, that's strange. Let's see. Sharing this tab. Shared the last tab and there was sound and it worked. It's not muted. Well, we'll try unsharing. And resharing again. Can you guys hear me? Is there audio on me? All right, let's try this again. Okay, you guys can hear me.
I think the American people are going to be...
Can you hear the video now? I can't think of any other reason why it would have stopped working. Good now. Okay, good. Just realizing I probably shouldn't have asked 2 yes or no questions back to back that have different answers. Anyways, okay. Let's rock and roll with this again.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures by the Secret Service in this assassination attempt on the former president. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be to them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said they're going to be appalled? What specifically?
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction. And we will have a report very, very soon that I think will absolutely shock the American people, or it should, about the lapses and lags in the protection that was afforded that day and the breakdown in communication, failure and responsibility.
Is that report coming today or tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Is that report coming out tonight or tomorrow?
No.
Oh boy, a report! We are taking this very seriously. We are going to generate a report. No one says this is BS meant to relieve pressure, nothing will come of it. That's one possible answer. Like I said, this is not something to draw conclusions from just yet. It's just something to put on the shelf in the back of your mind, pin it up to the wall, let it hang there, and keep an eye out for further things. I don't think that there's any reason for them to release BS to relieve pressure. I don't think that that's something that is I think the potential cost of, like, this is a time for circling the wagons for the regime. The regime's under assault from all sides, reeling. This is a time for them to circle the wagons. This is not doing that. And he's not just saying, oh, yeah, I think they'll be shocked and appalled, but not giving specifics. He even goes so far as to directly call out DHS, which is what I think is significant about it. And he does look like Kenneth Copeland and is creepy. That's the thing, is this is not some, like, junior congressman or something like that who maybe is just going off the reservation to get himself some glory. This is Richard Blumenthal, like, core Democrat Party leadership for a long time. Absolute creature of the regime. And even he's starting to... Yeah, I think it's very plausible to read this as rats fleeing the sinking ship, and this is like the first volley. It may not be. So again, don't draw any conclusions yet, but I do think that we're going to start seeing prominent Democrats abandoning ship and beginning to be much more sympathetic to Trump, or just accepting Trump, accepting it'll be framed as like accepting the voice of the American people, and it's time to get past all this partisanship and move toward unity and reach across the aisle. I think that we're going to start seeing some of that soon. Now, does it happen before the election or after is a big question. If it happens before the election, then, like, there will be no fortification. Like, the thing is decided. It may happen during the election process. To me, the election is not November 5. To me, when I think of the election, it's November 5 to January 20. That whole period. We're going to enter into a period of great, it's like a liminal space. Nobody's going to really know exactly what's going on. There'll be turmoil, strife, chaos, instability, unpredictability. Everyone's kind of frozen in place. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people in the investment space, looking at various different investments, and there's a lot of people who are just holding off until, I'm talking like startup business investing. There's a lot of people who are just holding off until after the election because that's how significant it is in the eyes of people. It changes the calculus for the investment and what to expect about profitability and success and is there even a nation to occupy to even have a startup in, or do we need to go in a completely different direction? That's the way a lot of people are thinking, which is a major reason why I don't think that there's as we're looking at the various different factions assembling together and evaluating the field in front of them, there's a large plurality of them who are non-ideological, really. They just want things to work and function because they're interested in their business and their markets and what's going on. And then all this politics stuff is kind of like, yeah, go away. Like, just do whatever makes sense. Do whatever makes everything work. And increasingly, it's becoming more and more apparent that regardless of political inclinations, the Trump side of things is much more stable and geared toward growth and productivity and prosperity. Even the normies are having to come online to this realization. Which means even if you're perhaps someone given over to corruption and malevolence to some extent, but you're sort of I don't know, it's kind of psychopathic about it. You're not like ideologically beholden one way or the other. You just want to you want to plunder. You're sort of no moral compass. Just want to plunder whoever you can plunder. Well, it's going to get a lot harder to even have something to plunder with a continuation of the Obama, Biden, Harris administration. The people who want to plunder other things, they need to have things to plunder. So you actually have to let things grow a little bit so that you have something to plunder in the first place. Which is why obviously we can't predict the future, but I don't think that it's going to get to the point of complete breakdown in this cycle because of this reason. Having a complete breakdown, having a total open constitutional crisis, having states forming coalitions against other states fighting over the election and one side not accepting the other and all of that is going to be catastrophic economically to a lot of people's economic interests and the people who really have the most vested economic interest. So there's like a series of decisions that have to be made sequentially over the course of several weeks for people to keep doubling down and doubling down and doubling down and doubling down on driving toward what is increasingly the more unpopular, unproductive, corrupt, chaotic outcome. The pressure is going to be immense on a lot of people to stay the course. No, we have to continue with the narrative. We have to continue with the propaganda. We have to keep pretending this is real. We have to keep up this illusion of democracy. The pressure on those people is going to be immense, and they're going to have a lot of decision points. That's why I say that what determines this outcome is going to be focus and willpower. And the public sentiment, which can be guided by the meme magic, the public sentiment is what creates or provides that focus and willpower one way or the other. So, speaking of public sentiment, I got to do the nifty little thing here. Okay, got to open a tab and then close the tab because apparently clicking on the window isn't sufficient, and now it pops it up to the top. Woohoo! David Sachs, narrative violation. This is from longtime Democratic pundit Ray Teixeira's latest post, at the Lib Patriot. So, Liberal Patriot is his Substack. Harris's working class problem. The Democratic Achilles heel remains. Besides the data noted above, this is quoting from the article, polling right after the debate found that Harris did little to improve voter confidence in her ability to handle the all-important issue of the economy. A CNN flash poll among debate watchers found that before the debate, voters trusted Trump over Harris on the economy by 16 points, and after the debate, they favored Trump by 20 points. Furthermore, if you look at the crosstabs, working class voters before the debate favored Trump over Harris to handle the economy by 29 points, an advantage for Trump which increased slightly to 32 points after the debate. Not exactly what the Harris campaign had in mind. So within that context, and I read you guys my thread the other day. I've given you guys my take on these incompetent cuckold conservatives who have this notion of neutrality and objectivity, and we're going to evaluate this objectively on the terms of the policies. Who made a more factual, coherent argument for their policies, detailing the list of proposals that they have, and who did not? And whoever made the more detailed list of policies must have won the debate. Because we've defined a debate as a place where you go, list out, like a fucking egghead, list out all of your favorite policies that you are going to advocate in our interests, because we are very smart people. That's not what a fucking debate is. The debate's not about, in a presidential debate, if you're like an academic, you might be able to get a bunch of people who are all sitting here and they're all suppressing all of their emotional responses and they're just keying in on the words that are being said. Even in that case, the vast majority of time, the person who is the better performer will win the debate. A presidential debate is not about who can more specifically delineate each and every one of their policies. That's not what it actually is. The eggheads want you to think it is. The conservative commentators, they want you to think that that's what it is. But that's not what it is. Here's a great example. David Riaboy. He says, the debate this week told us something interesting about the election. And as someone who'd like to see Donald Trump prevail in November, it's an encouraging sign. On the merits, Trump had a really lousy night on Tuesday. On the merits. Okay, well, what are the merits? He was undisciplined, rambling, missed nearly every opportunity, and often didn't answer the question addressed to him at all coherently. Trump has never been able to make an argument. Instead, he speaks in symbols. And like shorthand, the details are filled in by the listener. You mean he's an effective communicator? This is what effective communication is. Listing off policy proposals like a stuffy academic is not effective communication. When the goal of a debate is for the outcome to be, I want to vote for that person more. People don't vote for that person more based on whatever list of proposals they had. There'd be no point in having a debate. Just run ads and direct them to your website where people can read it for themselves. While his supporters are familiar with his base of facts, swing voters are not. That's why a lot of what Trump says comes off as incomprehensible to normies at best. Now, he's conflating normies and swing voters here implicitly, which is not like normies and swing voters are not the same thing. There's plenty of swing voters who are not normies, and there's plenty of normies who are not swing voters. But it also presumes that the swing voters are going to vote based on facts. They may think that that's what they're going to vote for, but that's not actually what they're going to vote for. They're going to vote for the person who they trust more, who seems more authentic, who commands the stage. Harris, on the other hand, was prepared and disciplined. Through diligence and real effort, had defeated her awful, cringy, lifelong verbal crutch and nervous tic, the maniacal Kamala laugh. Many of us were disappointed, as her laugh was toxic and grating, but its disappearance on Tuesday night was an indication that she'd taken this seriously. That, this is what these people actually think. Oh, she took it seriously. That this makes her a better potential president. Because she took the debate seriously. She actually suppressed her cackling laugh. She has the barest measure of self-control. The content of her presentation, of course, was shameless lies on every subject. Nevertheless, they were delivered surgically and hung together logically. Someone without any awareness of the facts, swing and undecided voters would think her assertions were at least plausible. But as it turned out, very little of all that mattered. You don't say! Surprisingly, the swing voters and undecideds were able to acknowledge that Kamala had won the debate and yet still preferred Trump. What the hell does winning the debate even mean? If the person who ostensibly lost the debate was able to successfully make more people prefer him. That's the definition of winning the debate. They did not allow Trump's inability to coherently explain his policies overshadow the policies themselves. I did not think these people were sophisticated enough to do this. No, They're the ones who are sophisticated. You're not. And let's be honest, they usually aren't. People follow the bouncing ball. This isn't lack of sophistication. This is like biologically ingrained instinct, which is very sophisticated. And they are especially susceptible to the media's messaging efforts to cement conventional wisdom. All of this leads me to believe that the skepticism of Kamala is far deeper than current polling suggests. You think? Anything can happen, of course, but this is still a very good sign. Good God, man. They picked up on the 3-on-1 format of the debate as well. I really don't think that was a factor for any... what in the hell world do these people live in? I said, it's almost like none of this shit here that I highlighted. Prepared and disciplined, delivered surgically and hung together logically. Undisciplined, rambling, missed nearly every opportunity, didn't answer the question addressed to him at all coherently. None of this matters at all. These dorks can hyperventilate over all of this constantly. Who's delivering it surgically? Are the words hanging together logically? They live in this little world where these things that matter so much to them don't matter to people. And this is why they're perpetually irrelevant losers. Presidential debates are not about organizing facts and logic for stuffy dweeb eggheads. The only coherent definition of winning the debate is who makes people want to vote for them more. This is so obvious it feels silly to point it out. And yet all these professional commentators sit here a couple days later astounded to learn yet again that their metrics for success are entirely detached from reality. I'm just going to tap this sign again. What all these large, ostensibly pro-Trump guys just can't grok is that they are opinion molders. They choose to be passive and reactive. The words go out there. They occupy a position where they can mold people's impressions of the words. These very smart guys who are able to view the emotional impact and the facts and logic side, and yet they're completely illiterate at the emotional thing when they're looking at it. So they just react to it as if, he presented some facts there, and now every single person is going to sit here and evaluate these facts. So if he was bad at presenting the facts, then we're going to critique him for not presenting the facts. We're going to say he could have done a better job. He could have made more coherent arguments addressing all of his specific policies, and he could have done it in a surgical way and made his words hang together logically. But they're the opinion molders. If they see through this, as they claim to, they can ignore the whole, present the measured critique with facts and logic step and go straight to the actual impact that actually affects people. They're soft and weak-willed and hopelessly devoted to the liberal myths of neutrality and impartiality. Pathetic. Powerful Mutual Jim Sharp says, imagine being the Harris team. You convene after the debate, slapping high fives, smiles beaming, congratulating yourselves on a debate victory. Because they were playing the wrong game. You got under Trump's skin and made him say some crazy stuff about immigrants eating people's pets. You lay down that night, eager to see the positive press the morning after. Then, to your horror, the headlines aren't about you at all. No one's talking about your calm demeanor, your sharp retorts, or your presidential appearance. The whole world is talking about cats being eaten. You open TikTok to see a viral trend featuring Trump. You go to CNN and MSNBC only to see them play defense against Trump. All of that effort, preparation, and rigging only to be rendered completely irrelevant 15 minutes after the debate by a Trump soundbite. Now, not only is your debate performance forgotten, but Trump has now made your worst issue the national focus as we hit the home stretch. It's got to be completely demoralizing. Here's what they have been reduced to. At a rally, Kamala supporters start chanting, "We're not eating cats."
And you tell me you had this on your bingo card, and they're eating cats, and they're eating cats. What can you say?
Imagine having a presidential candidate walk up on the stage and say, contrary to the reports out there, I am not a cuckold. My wife and I have a very strong marriage. I do not like watching other men plow my wife. That's what the crowd is doing. This is what they have been reduced to. Martin wins. Martin has won the entire internet. Martin being Captive Dreamer 7 on Twitter, the guy who started this whole thing, made it go viral in the first place. Another one here. I've got a couple of other clips here of them, of the libs just absolutely pooping their pants over this stuff now. This is before the debate. California Representative Eric Swallowwell is pretending to be outraged over GOP Chairman Jim Jordan posting the meme about Trump saving the ducks and cats in Ohio. They are just owning themselves.
What in the hell is this? The chairman tweets.
Look at him trying to get worked up.
Our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets. My God.
That facepalm right there, that's because he said aliens.
Goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets.
He catches himself and he knows it immediately. Fuck. We're not supposed to call them aliens. He's said a no-no word while he's doing this, trying to get really performative and emotional about this. So he has to try to disguise it as, I just can't believe. You're so craven. Fuck, I said the wrong word. I said aliens.
Pets? My God. Are you okay, Mr. Chairman? Because last year, for a very long...
Shout out to General Neelan. Haitians looking for that rabbit hole right now. That's a banger.
Time, you tweeted and promoted Kanye West as he was calling for genocide against the Jews, and you kept it up. And now, when we have victims coming here, you're tweeting this nonsense. I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay. I don't know if the aliens who are eating your ducks are in the room with us right now, but Mr. Chairman, this is a serious issue. These people have loved ones who have been lost, and you tweeted this.
That's right. Woman prattle. All right, now we got to play this one again. And there's more to the story now. I'm going to play this whole thing. I don't even care. You guys got to love it.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. Yeah! And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. Oh! Yeah! And this is what's happening. Dogs. People on television.
No credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is...
But people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people on television saying the dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. And this is what's happening.
Get it out, people on television.
In Springfield, They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating... People on television say my dog was taken.
Oh my God. I just want to listen to it over and over and over again. So yesterday I played this and I showed the original video, the original poster. And while I had the tab open, he went and locked down his account because he got mad. I went and screen captured it myself because it would still play since I had the tab open before I refreshed it. But fortunately, other people did as well. So the guy who originally mixed this, shout out to the redheaded libertarian, the guy who originally mixed this is having a meltdown because it's not pro-Trump. And he is literally a socialist. Receipts in the comments. Well, it's our song now, comrade. Here's the receipts. So this is from Megaphonics Music. I updated my display name. It's stuck like this now and won't let me change it back. What the fuck? Owned! And then he says, if you're reading this, fuck Trump. I'm literally a socialist. This is not a pro-Trump song. It has now been taxed. I was going to say sir, but I don't even know what to call him. I am a socialist, not a conservative. Now, I want to see... I wish we could find this out. Maybe we will. I want to know if this is like a really deep LARP. It would be brilliant for some guy to have, he's masquerading as this whole thing, because this just amplifies the production of it. This is the definition of the Streisand effect. I think there was some more here. This is our block, comrade. So I had people who were talking about this, like how is it possible that they generate our propaganda for us like this? And this is what Stormy was talking about with Jason when he said the culture is moving toward us. Our humor, the schizo edits, the meme magic, all of this stuff is true. There's a deep truth conveyed through it. There's a spiritual reality to it beyond just like some funny videos online. So it's not just like this niche sort of humor that only certain people are into. There's something grounded in reality that's super real about it. So even if a shitlib, first of all, a shitlib can see it and recognize what makes it good. This guy produced this in the space of like 12 hours, which is, he's phenomenally skilled. He produced this in like 12 hours after the debate. And the thing that he has his inspiration, the thing that he's driving at is real. He sees this real thing. That thing is ours. He can't help himself but to mimic us when he wants to be cool and catchy and viral and have popular appeal. That's what this means. This is why we are winning. The meme magic is so powerful, even our enemies are making our propaganda. Right? It's so good. Yeah. Just tries to make good art, ends up objectively right-coded. If my feeling win. Exactly, Josiah. Oh, man. Okay, let's keep jamming here. More meme magic. Someone just sent this in a Discord server I'm in. Shout out to Irish Patriot.
You talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got... You talk about a threat.
This is what I was talking about. After the debate, the memeable moments. You could see, like immediately when this stuff started dropping, you knew where it was going. Another one.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. Here's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs.
Whoa,
eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening.
There are so many people out there like this guy here who I have no idea who this is. Don't even care. Not even going to go find out. Because whether he is or not, there are people out there like this who they're like the professional content creators that go viral. They're constantly making stuff for especially TikTok, Instagram, less so on YouTube Shorts, but they often cross post over there, especially TikTok and Instagram. That they're just kind of politically ambivalent. They just want what's the good and right and nice stuff. But they also like having inspiration for content. So they're going to want the guy who gives them good content to keep generating. And then they've got a big audience of people who are the same, who want good content. And this stuff just is endearing. Seeing this sort of stuff with Trump, like over and over and over again, presented in this way is just endearing. Nobody's doing this with Kamala. Nobody cares about it. Like, yeah, whatever, that bitch. Like, give me more of the Trump guy. Your president needs you. Just aura. So much aura. So much charisma. He's always on his game. You realize, I noticed this the other day. Somebody said that every vice president alive has endorsed Kamala, all the way back to Dan Quayle. And I was like, Dan Quayle's still alive? What the hell? Of course, my response to it was, yeah, that's why we're voting for him. But then I had to go look up and see, like, how freaking old is Dan Quayle? He's younger than Trump. Dan Quayle is a year younger than Trump. And look at the man out here, just thriving, vibing. That little smirk right here. This is a reaction gif for all time. I've already seen the videos. People like when you see your buddy across the bar angling for some hot chick. Yep, this is the look you give him. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Or this one. Here's how it really happened. Yeah, buddy. It's so good. Every last little bit of it. I don't know if this came from Still Boneless or who first put this out, but I love these people's minds. They see this one video, they see this other video, and they're like, hey, these will go together absolutely perfectly. You could tell a little story in 14 seconds. There's such power to this. Thank you. My lovely wife says, like the show. We've got 130 watching right now and 47 likes. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm slaving away in the minds for you guys. Give me some likes.
Please, sir. May I have some more likes?
Mr. Sand says, I'm feeling 2016 meme nostalgia return. What a great time to be alive. Yes. This is what gives us the willpower. This is what gives us the focus. The memes. Someone up here said that Americans listen to such shitty techno. And that's the point. Rob Noggle says, Americans listen to such shitty techno. This is awful. That's the point. The fact that it's bad is why it's good. Okay, shout out to Josiah in the chat. I saw his tweet on this yesterday. It was the first time I saw it. New policy alert. President Trump announces a new plan to eliminate all taxes on overtime pay. I'm going to speed this up a wee bit because I still got a lot to get through. And Trump's pretty good fast.
Today, I'm also announcing that as part of our additional tax cuts, we will end all taxes on overtime. You know what that means? Think of that. Think of that. Think of that. That gives people more of an incentive to work. It gives the companies it's a lot easier to get the people. And you know, I went to some economists, great ones, and I said, what do you think? They said, it would be unbelievable. You'll get a whole new workforce by doing that. No taxes on overtime. The people who work overtime are among the hardest working citizens in our country. And for too long, no one in Washington has been looking out for them. Those are the people. They really work. They're police officers, nurses, factory workers, construction workers, truck drivers, and machine operators. It's time for the working man and woman to finally catch a break, and that's what we're doing because this is a good one. And I think it's going to be great for the country. So that's why we will be saying that if you're an overtime worker when you're past 40 hours a week, think of that. Your overtime hours will be tax-free. Okay, good? You're going to have it too.
Josiah says, huge, absolute game changer. This is one, how we rebuild America. You know Josiah typed it if there's typos in it. This is how we rebuild America. And two, make it clear that this election is the parasitic versus the productive class. Banger. Josiah says he doesn't believe in autocorrect because autocorrect is the longhouse. He typed what he wanted to type, and he doesn't need some naggy woman in his phone correcting his words. I got to give it to him. I can't argue with that. I would be so much less productive in life if I didn't have autocorrect because I go for speed, not accuracy, and autocorrect saves my life. Eastwood's birthday is in 2 weeks, says my wife. Give Matt money. Yes, give me money. You can send me a super chat. You can become a channel member for $5. Become a member of the King Pilled. You could go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. There should be a link in the description. And you could send me some shekels there. Shekels for me to buy gifts for my son. Or the best way you can support the show and the most that you'll get for your money is joining the King Pilled Discord at kingpilled.com. We'll be doing the Schizo stream here tonight, about 8 p.m. Central. We'd love to have you there. Interesting little thing. Another one of these to put on the Oh, my wife is roasting me. Matt goes for speed, not quality. Can confirm. I'm getting cooked. Yes, oh man. Ryan Isaac says, Cernovich helped me not care about autocorrect. Does it make sense? Then why midwit nag me? Yes. I have mixed feelings about Mr. Cernovich, but occasionally, even more often than occasionally, often he has good insights like that. Like this is the internet. We're communicating all the time. Do you understand what I was trying to say? If you didn't understand, you can ask me, hey, did you mean this or this? But if you're like, hey, it's supposed to be this thing, then you're like these frickin' cuckold conservatives that just Yes, let's get through let's have this conversation and not get bogged down in midwittery. This is another one to just kind of like put a pin in the back of your mind. I've been following this guy for a little bit, and I get big spook vibes from him. I am MAGA. Do not tell me I ain't black. Followed by Scott Pressler, Gunther Engelman, Roger Stone, Laura Loomer, Zeke Arkham, Tara Bull, Tiff Mood, Nukes High Res. I mean, this is, yeah. He's making lots of predictions, and he's very good at making predictions that kind of come true, but it's also kind of like, well, do you actually have an insider? This is interesting. We'll see what happens with this. But he says, I'll be releasing an affidavit from an ABC whistleblower regarding the debate. I've just signed a non-disclosure agreement with the attorney of the whistleblower. The affidavit states how the Harris campaign was given sample questions, which were essentially the same questions that were given during the debate, and separate assurances of fact-checking Donald Trump and that she would not be fact-checked. Accordingly, the affidavit states several other factors that were built into the debate to give Kamala a significant advantage. I've seen and read the affidavit, and after the attorney blacks out the name of the whistleblower and other information that could dox the whistleblower, I'll release the full affidavit. I'll be releasing it before the weekend is out. I've seen some other people talking about the potential for this, so we'll see if it goes anywhere. All right. Now, let's talk about the PayPal Mafia, the Gundo boys, little tech agenda, and other such things. One of the most striking charts this year, China's startup ecosystem has almost completely collapsed in the last 5 years. So this is companies founded from the Financial Times. Companies founded 2024 data ends in August and is incomplete. Funding data is year to date. So this is companies founded going back to peaking in 2018 and dropping off to nothing. Even lower than it was in 2000, is this supposed to be 8, I think? And Andreessen says, it can all just be killed. This is a reference, of course, to one of the primary reasons why they've thrown their weight behind Trump, because of their little tech agenda. Because if you, like, killing startups is not just like a tech thing. If you kill the startup industry, what you're saying is you're killing small business creation. If small businesses can't be created, then there's a permanent rift now between the lower classes and the upper classes, and the lower class cannot transition up to the upper class. You break that in half, and you're host. Your society is doomed. It's going to collapse. Because now your elites are going to become more and more ossified and corrupt. They need new blood, and they're not getting it. So killing little tech is killing the economy. The only reason anybody would ever do this is for cravenly evil reasons. Trying to create mass famine. Medical emergencies, like I don't want to use the P word, but I'll just say it, like pandemics. That's the consequence of killing little tech. It's not just a business thing. It's not just an economy thing. It's an all of life thing. You're stifling entrepreneurship. If you stifle entrepreneurship, you kill the will of a people. So we've talked about the Gundo guys, a great example of some of the most important parts of the little tech agenda. So Ian Laffey here tweeted on February 18. He said, we designed, 3D printed, and built a less than $500 drone that calculates GPS coordinates without a signal using a camera plus Google Maps. They designed it, 3D printed it, and built it in 24 hours. Look at these boys. Absolute chads. Complete. They look like the guys that are sitting around building drones. This is your newly developing military industrial complex. Thing's pretty slick. And then, so this was in February that they built it in 24 hours. On August 18, exactly 6 months later, he says, we just shipped our first unit to a real customer in the armed forces exactly 6 months after this first tweet. 6 months. So 6 months and 1 day from conceptualizing, designing, 3D printing, building, and shipping. Yeah, dude's rock indeed.
Artilleryman, the one and only king of battle, the Camaro-owning, ASVAB-waiver, caffeine-dependent tinnitus enjoyers that put rounds on target every single day. They, of course, didn't hear any of those jokes because this sick beat lives in their head, rent-free. Mom. By the way, your hearing loss is not service-connected. In all seriousness, these Joes play a pivotal role in the U.S. military's combined arms doctrine. This is a polite way of saying we put our enemies in a no-win situation. See, this is Dmitri. He is a proud soldier in the People's Liberation Ground Force, a totally fictitious nation that pays no similarities to anyone at all. And these are his choices. 1, stay where he is and deal with the hundreds of incoming shells that are becoming increasingly more accurate. 2, advance forward only to be met by the most unhinged psychopaths on God's earth that just lost everything in a divorce and want to take it out on him. 3, give up and we will all collectively point and laugh at his surrender from the ISR platform idling overhead.
Here is a absolutely classic Josiah statement. This is why we keep Josiah around for this stuff. Blocking tech is, funny enough, akin to blocking the sun from the top of the canopy of the social organism understood as a cultivated tree. See, I don't have anything to add to that. That's exactly what it is. Blocking the sun from the top of the canopy of the social organism understood as a cultivated tree. Very phallic, very masculine. There was another thing here I wanted to highlight. Ryan Isaac says, Pace Morby endorsed Trump. Quote, as a businessman, who's going to help me more? Who's going to tax unrealized gains? Yeah, Pace Morby in particular, and his demographic of businessmen, this suggestion of taxing unrealized gains is, like, they would probably be less horrified by advocacy for open cannibalism from the Oval Office. Even hinting at taxing unrealized capital gains is just that's the no-no square. You don't enter the taxing unrealized capital gains conversation. Even having the conversation itself is going too far. You don't concede to this sort of thing. You utterly, socially, and politically, I said socially and politically, completely destroy anyone who suggests such a thing or actually entertains it. Shout out to Slosher, $5 super chat. It's Canadian, but we'll take it. Thank you, sir. He says, I just got James Lindsay mad at me on X for calling him a kiss and containment. Calling him and kiss and containment figs. I feel like I've unlocked an achievement in social media. Did he block you yet? I would say it's an exclusive club, but it's actually a pretty big one. And you're welcome into it anytime. Yes, both of those guys are annoying weenies. All right, so Joe Lonsdale, I've mentioned him on the show here before. He's one of the co-founders of Palantir, founder of 8VC, former chair, I believe, of the Seasetting Institute, close friends with Patrick Friedman, close with Elon, lives in Austin now. He had this conversation on his show, The American Optimist, with Dino Mavroukis of Saronic. Saronic is building cutting-edge unmanned surface vehicles that enable maritime security and domain awareness by combining premier hardware, software, and AI. He says, in World War II, the U.S. built 18,000 ships in a year. Enemies couldn't keep pace. Last year, our Navy built 8 and retired 12. China now has 250x our shipbuilding capacity. How do we maintain naval deterrence? Smaller, weaponized, autonomous vessels.
In modern history, global power has been determined by naval power, and naval power has been determined by who has the most ships. And you go back to 1943, we built over 18,000 naval vessels in 1 year. Do you know how many we built last year?
I guess it's in the tens.
8.
Wow, that's even less.
And we retired 12. We're -4 in a peacetime environment. Now you overlay that with what the Chinese have done over the last 30 years.
They're building hundreds or thousands a year.
They have 250 times our shipbuilding capacity, and they have 50% of the world's shipbuilding capacity. That means if you got the entire world teamed up against China, you're only at parity.
Wow.
That's scary, and that's a lot of power to be concentrated in any one country. And that's why we're building what we're building, and that's why we're building it so fast. In modern...
Shout out to Ian Carroll, just bought me a beer on buymeacoffee.com. He says, happy birthday, Eastwood. Thank you, sir. Good on you. I'll make sure that he knows. If you want to buy me a coffee or a beer or, I don't know, I still don't totally know how Buy Me a Coffee works, but people asked me to set it up, so I did. Buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, and their link should be in the description. Okay, so within this this new military tech ecosystem that's been developing, this sort of crossover between Silicon Valley and military tech, Palmer Luckey is a prominent figure, the founder of Oculus and the founder of Anduril. He Anduril had a big product release here recently. I'm going to show you guys some stuff for that. The propaganda that they have is terrific. I know some of you guys out here will particularly appreciate it. But before we get to that, he's also a prolific poster on the internet. On September 11, he says, Kamala Harris was just several yards away from a pipe bomb planted at DNC HQ on January 6, 2021. Who planted the bomb? Why has Kamala never said a single word about it? In what world does a J6-focused candidate not even once mention this now buried assassination attempt? This is the biggest mystery of the election, in my opinion. It should be such an easy talking point. Every possible explanation is a bombshell. And then here, he says, the 1992 Democratic Party platform is based, quoting, governments don't raise children, people do. People who bring children into this world have a responsibility to care for them and give them values, motivation, and discipline. Children should not have children. We need a national crackdown on deadbeat parents, an effective system of child support enforcement nationwide, and a systematic effort to establish paternity for every child. He's quote tweeting, or he's retweeting Austin talking about testosterone levels in NPR hosts. He's been banned from Belarus and has been sanctioned by Russia. So, give you a little idea of who Palmer Luckey is. Let's watch this video. This is your military industrial complex.
TikTok. And I pointed out that TikTok should be banned really as a matter of economic trade. Like don't treat it like a national security issue. Just recognize that we shouldn't allow them to sell stuff to us that we sell to them. On tariffs, I'm the exact opposite. I primarily believe in them as a national security issue. It's so easy to say, well, the libertarian perspective on this is that the most efficient player in the market should be allowed to sell. The problem with that is that you destroy your entire ability to defend yourself. You have no ability to make weapons. And this isn't just the United States. Like we're talking about this in the United States because we're in the unenviable position of having a poorly functioning manufacturing apparatus and also being the world police. There are a lot of countries in the world that cannot possibly defend themselves because they have also outsourced all of their manufacturing capacity. Like it's not just the US that's been hollowed out by China. It's everybody. It's the entire West. And the only reason we have anything left here is because we're the world police and we have some weapons market. There's countries all over Europe that used to be powerhouses. And now the reason they're reliant on us is because they have zero manufacturing capability of any substance at all. So to me, I think tariffs are great because they ensure there is a market for manufacturing. And they ensure there's a market for manufacturing that takes place under US human rights laws, US energy laws. Like, slavery is really profitable. And so you have a lot of places around the world where you have quasi-slavery or literal slavery, making things really, really cheap. And I get this argument in the election year of tariffs are just taxes. I think you've seen what the Harris campaign is saying. They're saying he's putting a Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on groceries, a Trump tax on your car. It's like, okay, that's great, but at some point, why make anything, right? Like it probably is cheaper for us to have child slaves in Africa make everything for us. And why would you want a Trump tax on your car when it can be made by child slaves in the Congo? But it's just this ludicrous political argument when you take it all the way to its libertarian extreme. So I am really enjoying the Harris campaign taking the extremist libertarian position of child slaves making your stuff is okay.
But I also love just calling that an extremist libertarian position because that is what it is. And it's a thing that libertarians refuse to grapple with. It's like you want liberty at home, but not abroad. And clearly that's what these policies have done is, like, as you've said, it's you sort of enslaved people in foreign countries. And we
end up enslaving ourselves in the long run. Like you can say, oh, I think that things should always go to the most efficient player. Okay, well, let's play that out 30 years. We now have no ability to make cars, no ability to make batteries or solar panels. Our energy industry, food industry, and automotive industry is owned entirely by our largest strategic adversary, which is also now the world's largest hyperpower. And then they just take Hawaii because there's nothing we can do about it. Like that's actually the logical outcome of these things if you play it out to the extreme.
So we all are relying on, just a global supply chain, right? There are going to be, I don't know, second order effects perhaps of the tariff system. I'm wondering just what is this sort of tariff policy that you would like to see? What do you think would work here?
I'd love for it to be. Well, man, everyone wants. This is gonna sound so self-serving, right? Because everyone always wants welfare for their thing. The farmers want welfare for corn, and the auto workers want welfare for auto unions. And look at me, the weapons dealer. Surprise, surprise! I want welfare for the defense industry. But what I would love to see is tariffs on things that are directly downstream of strategically important assets. Like, for example, I'm a fan of steel tariffs to the extent that they allow us to maintain some steel industry, and aluminum tariffs that allow us to have some aluminum industry. I'm not saying that we need to make it where you don't have any imported aluminum or any imported steel, but there's a huge world of difference between allowing there to be some viable U.S. industry and none at all. It's the difference between having, let's say, an aluminum plant that you could ramp up, talent that you could ramp up, and literally no capacity whatsoever. So I would love to see them say, what are the things we can't get along without? Like, we need the ability to make critical metals. We need the ability to feed ourselves. Like, we better make sure that we are not dependent on other people for food, particularly people who hate us. And let's pick these areas and enact tariffs that are sufficient to safeguard those industries. And then people say, but Palmer, that's protectionist, and then they'll be less efficient. And my argument would be, okay, well, that's why you need to get regulations, get rid of the regulations everywhere else, so that you can have lots of competition and there's lots of money to be made. Like make it where there's lots of competition in the U.S., but you don't have to worry about slave-grown strawberries.
Put it on your campaign poster.
Look, I mean, you're familiar with like slavery avocados.
Oh, slavery avocados? No. Tell me more about slavery avocados.
So one of the interesting things that the cartels has been doing over the last couple of decades, as the war on drugs has kind of made drugs less and less profitable, as it's become harder for them to make money on drugs, because like drugs getting cheap is actually bad for the cartels. Fentanyl's bad for the
avocados.
So what they're doing is there's actually cases where the cartels are going in and taking over avocado farms by force, and then running them without complying with environmental regulations and not paying any taxes. And so when I say by force, I mean they're literally making people work these avocado farms at gunpoint and not allowing them to leave to return to their families. And and so it's wild to me when you get these extremist libertarians who are like, oh, but we should buy avocados from wherever the cheapest are. You shouldn't have those tariffs. And you know what? I just can't feel that bad about starving the cartels of revenue from the U.S. that pays for slavery avocados.
Yeah, they want to say things like, because obviously the avocados in America are more expensive. That's why we're buying Mexican avocados. And that has to do with tax policy and things like this. And they'll say, well, if we do these tariffs, Americans are going to have to pay $10 for an avocado or something. That's not going to happen, because the moment that, Becky comes out of yoga class and has to pay $10 for an avocado is the moment that the tax policy evaporates. And we once again have a market for avocados in America.
Well, and also what happens is eventually you're going to get, eventually the guys in El Segundo are going to start growing avocados. Like if you really get to $10 avocados, you're going to be people building, robot avocado farms. You're going to have to build, you get these short-term pain points. Like tariffs are very painful in the short term because they raise prices. But then people come in and figure out how to do things even better that probably never would have happened had the status quo not been shooken up. It's kind of what we've seen with automation in the food service sector, right? Like the minimum wage laws are what's actually driving all of this automation. And I'm not a fan of minimum wage laws, but I feel like tariffs are something that can drive positive innovation.
I want to pivot to one of.
I know that you guys probably wouldn't wind up listening to a conversation between Mike Solana and Palmer Luckey if I didn't play it for you guys. And you should go follow these guys. Go each of the people that I talk about here on the show, just go follow them. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on YouTube if they have whatever they have a presence, and just listen to them talk about stuff. Because they're this is when we talk about the Gray Tribe people, these are Gray Tribe guys. They both have significant sway within the industry. They're both they're like lightning rods. They're kind of Trumpian in that sense, and they have very close ties to all the major billionaires within the Silicon Valley world that we've talked about with the PayPal mafia connections. This is the way that they see the world. I don't know if I've ever seen libertarians getting absolutely roasted as much as they were here. This sort of angle that they're taking on this, beyond just calling him stupid and gay, which is fair. Yeah, they're stupid and gay, but this is just getting absolutely cooked on their own terms. Shout out to Thomas Queries, $20 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says avocados are a psyop. Nobody needs an avocado. and Bradley Schnitzer said slave avocados. Can you call them Slavocados? Because you get the Slav thing, which where slave comes from in the first place. That's I'm never gonna look at an avocado the same after hearing this. Every single time I see an avocado, I'm gonna think about slave avocados. Big shout out to Full Sturker, just bought 3 beers. Full Sturker, 3 beers. He says avoid hazy IPAs, embrace heavy RDLs, join Axios Training Club for more performance tips. You guys are going to be hearing more about Axios Training Club here in the near future. Shout out to Full Sturker. Appreciate it. Buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. Thank you guys. All right. So let's get some more on Anduril here. This is Palmer Luckey's company. This is the type of propaganda they're putting out. The grind that'll win poster, Anduril Industries 2024. What does this remind you of? Rebuild the arsenal. The grind that'll win. What is this? Does this call something to mind that we've talked about here on the show in the last several months? Here's another one. More production poster. Anduril Industries 2024. Rebuild the arsenal. Look at this. I believe this is what the kids call Kino. Manage democracy. Palmer Luckey says, Anduril is announcing something big tomorrow morning. This isn't just one product, it's a whole family of products that will solve some of the biggest problems faced by our military. Please lend me your energy so the whole world knows. It's also one of the 5 weapon systems we specifically pitched to investors in the first Anduril pitch deck. 3 down, 2 to go. These are our boys, man. This is so good. So here's the launch. The Barracuda unveiling. He says, check out this making of thread for the Barracuda launch video. One spoiler, the sound effects were recorded from a real Barracuda missile in flight. So as part of the Barracuda unveiling, Anduril Design brought the mission to life through an animated short. I have to show off my badass team on this particularly badass piece. So Anduril said, the U.S. and our allies do not have enough missiles to credibly deter conflict with a near-peer adversary. Have you listened to the Stormy Waters 2-Bit Podcast conversation? You better have. If you have, you know, you see what's happening here now. Say hello to Barracuda M, the most producible cruise missile on the market today. 50% less time to produce, 95% fewer tools, 50% fewer parts at a fraction of the cost. Designed to keep pace with the threat, built to bring mass to the fight. This is why the meme magic thing is such a big deal. Because this is companies themselves doing meme magic now. Straight Buster says, now this is how you get me to stand with the military-industrial complex. Indeed. So she says, the theme of the Barracuda AAV is manufacturing. We wanted to highlight both the future of manufacturing, but also highlight the common tooling aspect that puts Barracudas into the hands of warfighters quicker. The intro calls to action the need for mass production. The animation was done completely in-house. We used techniques in animation like digital map paintings. The storyboarding involved sketching out every scene and multiple blocking passes. I find this stuff really interesting. We had several illustrative elements like the stylized title and the Barracuda sticker that started as hand-drawn overlays. So here's their Barracuda, which is such a cool name. Anduril also is, if you know your Lord of the Rings lore, Anduril was, I believe it was Aragorn's sword. The music was scored and composed with recorded live guitars, programmed drums, and synths, and a recording of the actual Barracuda in flight. So listen for it. So what's crazy is you've got this, they're a weapons manufacturer, developing manufacturing, building out supply chains, but they've got like a media department, basically. I think this is, I don't know if this is like the long-term future, but this is definitely the short-term future of a successful company. having a personality, having a brand personality like this, and having capable media people, I think of all the resources and the time and everything, the salaries and everything that went into producing this for the marketing launch for their product. Our in-house team brings together concept art, motion design, photo, video, sound design, and industrial design. We challenged ourselves with a new style, breaking the mold in how we showcase new products. We raised the bar again. All right. Now, all of that, all of that stuff was really good. I enjoyed all of that. This is the part that I've been looking forward to. I played the clip for you guys after the debate of Megyn Kelly freaking out. Just freaking out about it. And I've been following her for a little while. She has impressed the hell out of me. She's she's really broken out of the old industry, and she's made a name for herself. And the more long form conversations of her I listen to, and I've listened to her show for a while now, she is our girl. I don't know if we can call them our guys. That kind of makes me reminds me of the book that Amy was reading Eastwood this morning from the library that looked all innocent and everything was fine, and then she started to read it and wait, hold on a second, nope. And then of course the early life check proved that yes, it is every single time. So she's our girl. We'll say she's our girl. She was on the All In podcast, and I'm going to play as much of this for you guys as I can. But before that, I have to play you. They reference at the beginning of the conversation with the All In podcast, they referenced this earlier conversation that I didn't even know about. So David Sachs and Jason Calacanis went on Megyn Kelly's show 2 years ago. I think it was actually even more than 2 years ago. June 7, 2022. Yes, a little over 2 years ago. This is right at the time that David and Jason were leading the charge in recalling Chesa Boudin. Was he the district attorney? I don't remember what his role was. Chesa Boudin in San Francisco. And so they're talking about crime and everything, and they ended up having a bit of a spicy conversation here. Another thing to watch for. So I'm going to play this part of this conversation, and then we're going to watch the All In podcast conversation. And notice the difference in Megyn Kelly from this video to the next one. Okay, let me get the screen shared here. And I have to say again, since I'm now sharing a video that's on YouTube, there's a very good chance that in the duration of playing this, which will be maybe 10 minutes or so, there's a good chance that it may get targeted by YouTube and pulled down. I'm just going to let it play. If it does, if you're watching on YouTube and the YouTube stream does go down, it's going to keep streaming on X. Go over there and watch there until I get to the X one. Once I stop streaming on YouTube, streaming a YouTube video on YouTube, then the YouTube stream will come back up again. So you can hang out in the chat here, but you could also go over to X, keep watching the whole thing through, and hopefully I just get through it and it doesn't take it down, but I've been down this road before. So I will be, the YouTube stream, if it goes down, it will come back up again as soon as I'm done streaming the video and I go over to the All In podcast one. But let's let this rock and roll.
That last week, they need 67,000 more by July 6th to secure a vote, I guess. Now, this guy, similar to what we were just talking about looking at the cases in San Fran, there was a woman, she's only known as Rachel. She was pushing her son, Charlie, in a stroller through the Venice neighborhood of LA. We have the video of it. It's downright alarming. This is via Daily Mail and New York Post. This car comes out of nowhere. It's a narrow alley, but she's on the small sidewalk there. You can see, oh my God. He has plenty of room to stay away from her. He runs over this woman and her baby. I want to tell everybody they lived. Amazingly, they both lived. She tried to get out of the way, but it almost seemed like he was trying to mow her down. And that's certainly what she thinks.
Based Ram owner. He lived up to the name of his vehicle.
Now, his full name was never released, only his initials KB. And she gave a victim impact statement. And if you guys will forgive me, I'm going to read part of it because there are no cameras in the courtroom. But we have the transcript. And she says, August 6th, 2021, that's the day KB tried to murder me and my 8-month-old baby. As the car got dangerously close to us, KB turned the wheels in our direction and accelerated as he aimed to kill us. I screamed at the top of my lungs for him to stop. I made eye contact with him. His face had no look of fear, surprise, or regret. He stared right at me with a look of intention. I have fragments of memories of watching the car hit us, me hitting the windshield with my body and head hitting the ground. I saw a tire as I fell to the ground, thought my head would get run over, that my life was over. I assumed my baby was already dead. We're indeed very fortunate to be alive, but make no mistake, my son would be dead if it weren't for my actions in those last moments. Had I not thrown my child into the air and instead had left him on the ground in his stroller, KB would have succeeded in killing my baby by driving the nose of his stolen car right into my child's face. He tried to kill us for sport. And if you look at this still grab we have of the actual moment of impact, you will see, and for our listening audience, check it out on our YouTube feed later, but what you see is the car. You see the mom on her left side on the windshield being hit, and you see the stroller wheels up, and you'll see a white thing close to the front wheel of the car and close to the ground. That white thing is the 8-month-old boy. That's her baby, whose head looks like it's about to get run over by the back tire. I mean, it's a miracle that this mother and child lived. She goes on to say, I was shocked to find my baby alive afterward, screaming, thankfully still strapped into his stroller. I was dumbfounded when I learned KB had only been cited out and was never arrested for our attempted murder. She's very angry about that, saying, I've never felt so victimized as I have by this system.
That dude was never arrested. I remember when this happened. I saw this going around on Twitter. And yeah, this is the everyone's been really focused on the Haiti stuff and all these other, but like these sorts of stories have been going around for a long time now. It started really in LA and San Francisco, New York, the big cities. They've been subjected to this sort of terrorism for years, and it's just starting to be exported into the heartland. This is not a new problem. This is not something that just cropped up. This has been a deliberate, sustained, intentional assault on the American people. Human bioweapons being imported and directed against the American people. I'm going to continue with this here in just a second, but I wanted to highlight something that Nick Sledge 000, he says, Anduril is hiring very aggressively. They also get back to you really fast when you apply. So for those of you out there, my young fellas, or maybe even not so young, you're looking for a job, go to Anduril's website. Go apply. That's a good way. People ask, well, what do I do with you got this PayPal mafia thing? How do I said they're engaging in a regime takeover. They're offering you a startup opportunity. How do you get involved with them? Well, go join one of their companies. Go get yourself on the inside. Go work for them. They'll pay well. They're cutting edge. And if you play your cards right, make yourself a good worker, dependable, reliable, you might get well paid and find yourself a great network of good people. All right, let's continue.
And current policies of LA's DA, George Gascon. My heart breaks when I think about all the other victims out there less fortunate than me, whose murderers are getting lenient sentences and being released from prison before their sentences are complete. When I met with the juvenile DA in Englewood, I was told Gascon's policy of, quote, delivering the lightest touch possible for minors would prevent us from ever seeing any justice. What about my child? Also a minor. He was 8 months old when KB tried to kill him. I was also told that his record would be wiped clean when he turned 18. How on earth can that be? He tried to murder 2 innocent pedestrians. Murder. And we have video evidence. And she goes on from there. Basically, this guy got a slap on the wrist. He was treated as a juvenile. And the DA really had no qualms about it, saying, trying to find the exact quote, but unapologetically saying he was a minor and this was the right course, not to throw the book at him. And that's where it stood. So it's not San Francisco. It's not LA. It's California. And it's other states, too, who have, on a massive basis, taken this approach of, he didn't mean it. He's too young to really throw the book at. We've been too tough on criminals. And you've got real life victims who are starting to stand up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the way that Gascon got elected in LA, he was actually the DA in San Francisco. That's where he came from. He went down to LA to run against a veteran experienced DA named Jackie Lacey, who happens to be a black woman. And Gascon was supported by Soros and Reed Hastings and basically billionaires who don't live in LA. It's out of town money. They don't have to live with the consequences of their policies. And he replaced this extremely experienced DA. And so, you know, we had this black woman replaced with this incompetent white man, and we never heard anything about this being institutional racism. So, you know, it's been a real disaster, and we've seen the consequences of these policies. And you've seen now a rebellion by the Hollywood left against Gascon as a result of the case you're talking about. There was a case of a young woman, Brianna Kupfer, who was working in a furniture store and just was randomly attacked by a deranged homeless person and stabbed to death. There was a case, there's been a rash of these follow home armed robberies that took the life of a world-renowned person, Jacqueline Avant. You know, criminals followed her home and she was shot to death. So people in LA are getting scared, and there's been a bunch of applications for people in LA who are never into guns before to basically become first-time gun buyers. So yeah.
John says, I'm just going to guess here. JC is going to prove again he's a total pussy. Oh yeah, this is become a notorious clip. What's coming up here shortly? It's Jason started out as go listen to this whole conversation. This is Megyn Kelly, Crime and Chasing Boudin's Recall, and Elon Musk's Twitter plan with Jason Calacanis and David Sachs. You can go listen to it. It's on the Megyn Kelly show, posted 2 years ago. If you search for like Megyn Kelly and David Sachs, it'll come up. But Jason was originally a journalist. He's kind of like Mike Solana a little bit in that he started off as a journalist and then wound up getting invested in Uber, I think, and Uber took off. And so he comes from the journalist background, and he sees himself as a journalist. He talks about himself as a journalist. So he starts playing that role here, and it gets fun.
I mean, you're starting to see a real rebellion by the citizens of these cities against these DAs who really got elected with out-of-town billionaire money.
Yeah, that's right.
And
George Soros will never see the effects of these policies that these DAs are putting into effect. And she, this woman, because her perpetrator was just sentenced last Thursday, she was asked to speak after he was sentenced. So she gets to give her victim impact statement after the sentence has already been handed down. That doesn't do her any good. They sentenced him 5 to 7 months at a youth camp, juvenile probation camp. This guy who literally tries to mow over a woman and her 8-month-old baby. They said, oh, look, fortunately, Gascon's office said, the baby was uninjured and the mother received a laceration to her elbow. I mean, absolutely no empathy for crime victims, only for those who perpetrate them. And so, we see it city by city, state by state. George Soros, I don't know. He lives, I'm sure, in a very nice neighborhood. He's never going to be made to pay. But it's not just him. I've talked about this before. I had a meeting with a billionaire here in New York, who I will do the courtesy of not naming. And I was just given access to him to talk about media, talk about future, talk about, sort of where he thinks things are going. And this guy was one of the main funders of the no bail policy in New York. He was like, this is my only mission. And why? Because it makes him feel like a social justice warrior. It made him feel better, like he was doing something for the Black community, for people who have been unfairly, punished by police in the past and so on. And of course, the stats that were just released a couple months ago by the DA or by the FBI show that the people who have been hurt more than ever by the increase in crime over the past couple of years in the wake of these policies are Black and brown people. So there'll be no accountability for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case that, as with the whole defund the police movement, this sort of decarceration movement, the zero bail movement, is supported by generally upscale, well-to-do white progressives, and who are very insulated from the effects of these policies. And when you actually poll the communities who are most impacted, they are very much.
Screwed Up Rebellion says, is Jay Cal the guy from the All In podcast? Yes, these are the two of the main guys on the All In podcast. David Sachs in the middle and Jason Calacanis, or Jay Cal, on the right.
Against these policies. And the defund movement, just like the decarcerate movement, they come from the same place of this misguided sort of progressivism.
Let's be clear. David Sachs backs, politicians all over the country. So, I mean, this isn't just a matter of, people backing people from other states. Sachs does this every day of the week. So,
well, but that's an interesting point, because I never thought. I mean, I do contribute to national races where
local ones too.
And local ones, but I don't contribute to local races where I don't live. So it was.
Are you claiming that you have many homes?
I do, yeah. So
where's JD Vance running?
JD Vance is running in Ohio, but he's running for the United States.
In Ohio?
No, but he's running for the United States Senate, and that vote is going to impact.
So that
me.
makes it different.
That's a national election, Jason.
Got it.
I never in a million years would have thought to fund a local DA or say mayor's race in a city in which I had no nexus, in which I did not live or work, and.
Honestly, I don't know how these guys managed to be friends with him. You're going to see, I played the JD Vance conversation with him the other day when all of them are just absolutely shitting down his neck, and because he's being just a complete queef. And then he does that. Like, me and my buddy are going to go on this podcast with this chick talking about these sorts of issues, and then you're just going to get all smarmy and start throwing shit at me. Like, I don't know how they stay friends with him. He must be great behind the scenes or something. I don't know. But he's so incredibly smarmy and insufferable.
This has been a strategy of these left-wing progressive groups, which is to change policy across the nation by flooding these local races that people never previously paid much attention to.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize how important these
the right
races
doesn't
were.
Do that?
Well, I can't speak for that. I never thought to do it.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's what I think is nuts. Here's what I think is disturbing. We've seen the crime rates go up in our major cities, and in particular, the murder rates go up in our major cities massively over the past couple of years. And there's no question the pandemic played some role in that, for sure. But
so Megyn's going to make a really good insight here, something that I hadn't completely put together the way that she presents it, talking about the correlation between crime rates and mass shootings. And here's where things go off the rails.
but the soft on crime policies played a massive role as well. And certainly the defund the police and the summary attacks on police as racist in the wake of George Floyd did not help either. I mean, there have been whole studies on the Ferguson effect, so-called Ferguson effect. Cops do pull back when they don't get backing, when they get demonized. You know, they're like, what am I doing this for? I'm not making $300,000 a year. So we've seen all that. But what we're seeing right now is a weird phenomenon in the past month or so, since Buffalo, since Uvalde, since we've seen more and more coverage of shootings pop up. Those were mass shootings. There's no question about that. But now you start to hear CNN, you read the New York Times, you listen to the Biden White House, some Democrat politicians, they describe everything as a mass shooting. Like 4 people shot at the grocery store, wherever. It's a mass shooting. I mean, I guess technically I'm not trying to argue over value of life.
How many people need to die in a shooting, Megyn, or get hit by a bullet for you to consider it a mass shooting? Is it 4? Is it 7?
Let me finish my point. Jason. As I was saying before you interrupted me, I'm not trying to dispute what the use of the word mass. What I'm trying to dispute is the attempt.
Watch David's face throughout this little interchange that they have here. And the point she's making, don't lose the point, that they're taking this mass shooting thing and they're turning it into, there's more and more mass shooting things to make it about gun crime, when in reality what it is it's a rise in violence. There's crime going up all over the place, connecting this with this other story about this woman and this immigrant. So they're connecting the explicit Democrat policy of importing migrants, going soft on their crime, and then using this elevated mass shootings indicator to turn it into a political weapon on the other side. So she's the one describing this, and then I'll spoil it. David agrees with her. Jason is a weasel.
Attempt to now say we got to get guns because of all the mass shootings. The mass shootings are what justify our newfound push on, quote, gun control. And what it is, to me, is a dodge on the rising crime rates, which have been a drag on the Democratic ticket and are going to take them down come the midterm elections in October. It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. There's not some new rash of mass shootings thanks to guns. There's crime. There's increasing crime in city after city, which this DOJ's own FBI has documented, and no attempt to blame it simply on this phenomenon of bad mental health coupled with easy access to guns is going to excuse the Gascons of the world, the Chesapeakeans of the world, and these soft on crime policies, including zero bail. That's my point.
So how many people do need to die in a mass shooting for it to be?
Why don't you answer my question, since you're here as the guest?
What was the question? Was there a question?
Yeah.
I thought we were here to have a dialogue, Megyn. I thought you.
Yeah, and I'm shooting the point at you, and I'm asking for your reaction.
Okay. I think you're conflating a lot of different issues in a very partisan way to get ratings.
That's bullshit. Don't question my motives. This is where you turn into
You
sort
asked
of
me
an
what
asshole.
I think. That's what I said. That's what I think. I think you're conflating a lot of issues here. I think we need to have a realistic discussion about gun control in this country.
No.
I think
Let me
you're
just
making it
stop
partisan.
you.
Let's
Let
have
me
the
stop
actual
you.
thing. What you said that there's a
I'm giving you my honest analysis, and for you to say that I am misleading the audience for ratings is a prick thing to say. You don't know me, all right? I've made my name and I've made my business based on honest journalism. I realize you may be number 26 world.
Watch David.
Wide, but you've never done real journalism at the level I have in your life. So I don't need a lecture from you about ratings. I am here to deliver honest information to my audience. That's what I'm doing. You can disagree with my point without getting personal.
How many people have to die in a mass shooting? As a journalist, we're both journalists. How many people have to die in a mass shooting for it to be considered mass for you? Let's have that discussion.
I don't know.
6, 7, 8? Where do you put the line?
I don't.
She absolutely crushed his skull. You may be number 26 nationwide, but you've never done actual journalism.
No, but you know nothing about me. Do you know my stance on guns?
I don't. That's why I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, you
brought
don't
it
know
up.
because
you said that
you
said
came
the left
into this with an
is
idea that I might be opposed to your positions on January 6th, on guns and so on. You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about me. Let me give it to David, who might actually ask. Let me give it to David, who might actually engage on the point I'm trying to raise. Do you think there's any validity to that? That now we're trying to deflect from the problems of soft on crime DAs and zero bail policies with gun control, mass shootings. That's the real issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just let's take the city of Chicago. You had over 200 homicides this year, mostly gun deaths since the beginning of the year. No one was talking about that before Uvalde. Now they're trying to rebrand that as, a mass shooting problem. Handguns are already illegal in Chicago. That's not a gun control problem. That's a gang problem. It's a crime problem. Crime's been out of control, and you've got a decarceral DA named Kim Foxer who's pushing the same policies as Gascon in LA or Boudin in San Francisco. So they're absolutely trying to rebrand. Let's say.
Here's the thing about JCal too. He and Sachs are being interviewed on here precisely because they're leading the charge on this initiative to get Chase and Boudin recalled precisely over this issue. This is his issue. She's teeing him up a softball to advance his issue. And he's too much of a frickin' scumbag to even recognize it or take advantage of it.
A heinous but conventional murders, violence, gang violence as some sort of mass shooting to put it in a different category. They never expressed a concern about these crimes until Uvalde. Now, Uvalde is a separate thing. We do have a problem of these young, disturbed, psychotic young men who go off and do these mass shootings, who kill, dozens of people. Those are a problem. But that, and we can have a conversation about how to control that. On our pod, we talked about red flag laws. We talked about background checks. I'm in favor of those things. So I think we should address this problem of psychos getting guns and committing these mass shootings. But what's happening in our cities, where handguns are already illegal, that is not a mass shooting problem. That is a crime problem. And progressives didn't care until they figured out a way to rebrand that as a gun control problem.
Yep, that's exactly it. Thank you for engaging. Stand by. I'm going to squeeze in a break, and we'll be back with more with David and Jason on Elon Musk and Twitter, and much, much more right after this.
Okay. So there was the setup. And now, what date was this video on? This was yesterday, actually, that this dropped. Conversation live at the All In Summit between Megyn Kelly and the All In boys. Speed this up a wee. It's only 36 minutes, so I think we'll just there's so much good stuff in this that I think I'll just play the whole thing. I think it should probably be fine.
Well, Megyn Kelly looks to be parting ways with NBC. Her show is now canceled.
Megyn Kelly just landed a new gig. Why was she given a platform in the first place?
We're doing this program because we believe there's an urgent need for independent voices in the media landscape.
I know the audience you have. I can reasonably guess it. It's enormous. Podcasts, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter with Elon. That's the problem. A lot of people in cable news, Megyn, are fighting yesterday's war. They're not the problem now. You're the problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Megyn Kelly. She is. Great to see you. Thank you for coming. Hi. Thanks for being here. All right. Yeah. Hi, Megyn. All right. Nice to see you.
Hey, Megyn. Hey.
Did you get to hear Peter Thiel, Megyn?
I did, just the tail end, just a bit.
Yeah. What do you think of Peter?
He's brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, thank God for him, right? It's like there's a few guys in tech with a lot of money keeping Republican candidates alive, and we need every single one of them.
Now, one thing I'll point out to you is it's a different setting, of course, than the other one, but having watched her show a lot recently, I was struck by her appearance back here. Her older videos, and even in that intro sequence that it showed of her when she was on CNN or Fox, wherever she was, like, she's looking healthier and more natural. And this tracks with her ideological moves. As I've been listening to her, she's getting into a lot of the Crunchy Mom stuff. And you could tell it's had a real impact on her. And I don't know if she's wearing less makeup, if she's doing something different with her hair, if she's less stressed. I don't know what exactly it is, but she's her face, her skin, her hair, everything just looks healthier now than it did back then, which I think is a proxy for her her moving out of this being really ideologically trapped in this stupid, corrupt world and moving into a better place. Tweetybird, did they post Thiel's interview? They didn't. I think this is very interesting. They've talked to a bunch of people, Travis Kalanick, or Travis Kalanick rather, and then someone else, I can't remember. They've had a few different ones. They haven't posted the Thiel one. I don't know if maybe they're not going to, if it was like a private thing. I'm not sure. Yeah. So you're saying all of the wealthy businessmen who are willing to support Republican candidates, he's saying all of them are here at this summit. Also, who said this up here? Will says, I'm pretty sure Kalanick is the poorest man on the All In pod, and he's compensating. Yeah, that energy comes through big time. He definitely is. He's definitely he's a journalist who he's smart. He's definitely very smart, well-read, stays plugged into everything going on, but he has very much like little brother energy, and he's compensating for it, where he's actually among the real business titans, and then he's kind of like the retarded friend that they bring along with him, so he has to puff out his chest and be all big and bold and, I'm edgy and controversial and I ask the hard questions, and he's kind of just annoying. Volume dropped. Okay. Let me pull up the no volume. Oh, Sorry, it's because I didn't. I got distracted talking and didn't actually share the right tab. Okay. I was reading you guys talking in here. Who said this? Screwed Up Rebellion says, I've never listened to Megyn Kelly's podcast. ASTROLABE is the most I've seen of her. And this is why I wanted to do this long segment on here today, because I think it's time. I'm going to be driving the bus for Megyn Kelly for press secretary. Tickets are sold at the counter. They're selling out fast. Anybody is welcome to buy one and hop on board, but I will be driving the bus.
Thank you for coming. Hi. Thanks for being here. All right. Yeah. Hi, Megyn. All right. Nice to see you.
Hey, Megyn. Hey.
Did you get to hear Peter Thiel, Megyn?
I did, just the tail end, just a bit.
Yeah. What do you think of Peter?
He's brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, thank God for him, right? It's like there's a few guys in tech with a lot of money keeping Republican candidates alive, and we need every single one of them.
Okay. Starting early. I think all of them were here today. You seem incredibly happy as an independent broadcaster and running your own show. Maybe, number one, am I right that you're just absolutely engaged and excited again about broadcasting? Because it seemed like the tail end of your working for the machine was particularly challenging.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Tell us.
That's a polite way of saying it.
I'm trying to be polite. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
You are?
Well, the last time you kind of blew up on us.
When you called him a prick on TV?
I do. It was good natured.
It was good natured. Yes.
I'm so much happier, and it's really changed my whole view on cancel culture. You know, I'm a believer in cancel culture now. I think it separates individuals from companies where they do not belong, where the values are not aligned, and I really can't imagine being right now at NBC or frankly at Fox News in this environment and having to comport with their rules on how we talk about these very dicey issues that are all over the news today. I could not do it. It was just a matter of time before I was canceled.
Yeah. Talk about producing a show now that is the largest. You're now the largest broadcaster in the news category on YouTube, crushing everybody else. CNN, Fox, their YouTube channels now bow down before you, and you are an independent company with, I understand, 6 people.
Yeah, 6 producers.
6 producers. So that is, how many people at the peak, NBC, Fox, did you have working in your group?
Well, I probably had about 15 producers, but Fox was always lean. CNN, the Anderson Cooper show, which was, across from us for a while, minus 1 hour, had something like 100 staffers. So think about it. So in July, we did not beat CNN, but we had 2/3 of CNN's YouTube audience, 2/3. Every single dollar in the multi-billion-dollar CNN audience went into, obviously, their live broadcasts, which we crush. We crush their numbers, dollar to dollar in terms of like the podcast and so on. But let's just look at YouTube. So all those resources go into their YouTube feed as well. And it's got every show on CNN, every single talent. And our one show with my 6 producers came close to crushing them all and did crush CBS and NBC, which was a particularly nice piece of news.
When you left, my understanding of these deals, when Tucker left on Lemon, and you leave those broadcast ones, it's kind of like they're paying you to not compete. You can't go work for another network. So was that the case with you, if you can say it, and then you were kind of forced to become an independent broadcaster?
I wasn't forced. I was only forced to have my show end at NBC. And beyond that, I don't think I'm at liberty to speak of the specifics. But I was free to get another job. I just wasn't sure I would. There was a couple of years there that were dark and depressing, and my industry is incredibly disgusting and toxic and awful. Perhaps you've watched the news and you know. And I just sat on the couch thinking, why would I go back into that? That was terrible, and it makes you a bad person and unhappy. And all they do is stimulate outrage all the time and then get rich off of it, and you have to push somebody else's agenda, and I don't want to do any of that. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit, and then we started to lose our minds on all the mandates, and then George Floyd, and then we really lost our minds. And
okay, my wife has beckoned. She says, can you do a 5-minute intermission? Come help me with the milk. I just need it unloaded from the truck. I am going to respond to my wife. I will be back in 5 minutes. Just hold that thought. Hang out for a minute. I got to go lift the cooler down out of the truck, and I will be back. All right. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate your patience. Dad left for cigarettes. All right. Let's get jamming again.
And seeing those people in the streets trying to make people put down their burgers and say Black Lives Matter is when I got up off my couch and said, now it's on. Like, I can't stand when people make me do things. I can't stand bullies. And it's in my DNA to stand up against them. And so I had to get back on the air. And I said to my therapist, who is really underpaid, what if nobody watches? What if nobody listens? It was just a podcast at the time, no visual. And he's from South Africa. And he said, well, I'll listen. I said, okay, great. And he said, and Doug will listen, my husband. I'm like, well, I got 2. And that was 4 years ago. And now it's going great.
How has your approach changed, if at all, in terms of what you want to produce and what conversations you want to have? Because you no longer have to think, well, what does Roger Ailes think, or this NBC person, or everybody in between. You actually, the buck stops at your desk, at your microphone. You are the decider now. So what is your framework for deciding what to put on air? Because you do also now suffer from, hey, you're in YouTube. If it bleeds, it leads. If it has rage associated with it, it's going to get more clicks. So how do you mitigate that?
Well, I love my producers, and a few of them have been with me for over 10 years, 15 years plus, from Fox News, from the earliest show I ever did in 2007 to now. So they know me very well, and they know what lights my fire. And if I feel that fire in the belly, it's usually not outrage, it's just fire in the belly over the news, then it's a good story for me. And that differs.
I can relate to that. She says here, it differs host to host. When I'm putting stories together, when people are sending stuff to me, there's some stuff that just hits me. It's like, oh, the fire builds up, and I'm immediately, my brain is filled with words to say about this. And then some of it just isn't, and it's just not there. I think it is there's a little something you can read into this, is that the fact that thing exists, that her producers are able to pick up on, like, what is the thing that lights her fire. It shows there's like a really stable, consistent, coherent core that she has, that they're able to identify and engage with.
Host to host, what drives you nuts? What do you need to have your say on? And so for me, speaking of therapists, it's like therapy to go out there on set and say what I know is true, right? Just say what's true about the news. And then we can argue about the meaning and our opinions on what's true. But what's true should not be so up for debate. But yeah, I have a few through lines that my team always knows will get me excited. And since the beginning, free speech has been one of them. And the thing about the cops, it's not coincidental that that's what got me up, because I've been at Fox, 14 years I was there, and I have a brother who's a police officer. He's a retired lieutenant, and one of the most honorable men you'll ever meet in your life. And I am just...
All right, we did it, boys. We memed it into reality. The Teal interview is up. So I guess you guys know what we're going to be watching on Monday.
So sick, and have been so sick of the lies that have been told about cops.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
We have law enforcement in my family as well, and it's really hard to watch this. Yeah.
Yes, it's so egregious. This is not to excuse the few bad apples that you see on the news, but they are so not representative of your average police officer.
Absolutely not.
And these guys make no money. They don't get a lot of glory.
They risk their lives.
They risk their lives every day for us, right? And now on top of all that, they're treated like absolute shit by everyone. The news media, absolutely no qualms about ruining these guys' lives before any due process. And that's what the media has been doing with everyone in the past 5 years. No due process. You're accused of anything, you're guilty. And there's really no Jones to figure out whether it's fair. And so, given my legal background, because I practiced law for a decade, that's another piece of it that always gets me fired up. Somebody being unfairly railroaded.
I think
Preach,
the topic
Queen.
You've been most on fire, and I think it's very brave, is the issues around trans issues, trans rights, and maybe young children. You're not a bigot, but you're being framed as that when this discussion comes up. Maybe you could explain just what is your position on biological men in locker rooms, and maybe kids receiving hormones or having their bodies mutilated because they maybe feel like they're...
Notice the whole panel's reaction and engagement on this subject.
The opposite gender. I don't want to lead the witness here, but I think we're more in sync on this issue than maybe most.
Yeah. I don't care what they call me. They can call me a bigot, a TERF, a trans misogynist, which is not a thing. I will speak truth. Men cannot become women. Period. Women can't become men either. And men and boys do not belong in women's spaces, whether it's a bathroom, a locker room, or a sports event. They don't. And good men do not wish to access those places. And by the way, even if you have some empathy for someone who's genuinely struggling, the problem is the camel's nose, because as soon as you allow one person who may be genuinely struggling with this issue into your 17-year-old girl's locker room, that opportunity will be exploited by openly bad actors. And when girls start getting hurt in these private spaces, as they already have been, listen to Riley Gaines' testimonial about what happened to her with Leah Thomas, about how he was in there. He was looking at her. She was naked. She had no idea an intact male was entering her locker room. The humiliation she felt. That counts as injury, but we could go well beyond that because it's crossed over to actual physical. So I am willing to fight to my dying day against that without judging trans people themselves. What you do in the privacy of your own home or your own life is your business, not mine, unless you make it my business. And then you will hear from me. And if you make it my child's business, times 10.
And
Mama Bear.
in your answer is empathy for somebody who is suffering from gender dysmorphia and who's struggling with that issue. And you don't have a problem with those individuals, as you said 2 or 3 times in that one answer. Yet you could give that disclaimer. You could say you have empathy or sympathy for them, and the only thing they're going to hear is, something they project into it.
So it got a lot easier for me on the name calling in response to this issue once I realized the vast majority of people who want to call me a bigot or a TERF are men. They are men posing as women. So these are men trying to shame me out of standing up for my daughter and myself and my fellow women on our safe spaces. That's the end of it. They can take a seat because these men don't know the first thing. They're showing up for mammograms. You ladies know what it's like, the older ones like me, sitting in the mammogram office where you're out there waiting to go in and you're in your little robe and you're worried. You're nervous. You got to do it when you hit a certain age. You know what you're there for. You guys have it on the other end. You're like, I hope I don't have cancer. They say I need to go here. I got to find it early. You're sitting looking at other women. And now we're having men sneak in there, not because they're actually worried because a very, very small percentage can get, but because they want to feel like women. Same thing at the OBGYN. Get out. Get out of our spaces. I'm sick of this bullshit. What I have empathy for is us, women and girls. Somebody else can worry about the feelings of the men who want access.
Can I, do you think that there are individuals who have been historically repressed and have now felt the freedom to come out and say that they are a different gender? Or do you think that there's something else socially going on? What's going on? And why do you think that this has become such a prominent issue of late in the last couple of years?
Yes, 100%. It has exploded as a social contagion. And that's been documented by many people, from a very smart woman at Brown to Abigail Schreier and her must-read book, Irreversible Damage, and beyond. But this is a social contagion. This is not populating in the way that it is just because we're more accepting now. And if that were true, you would see it everywhere. But what you're seeing it is more concentrated in more leftist states, cities, regions. And that's because the more of it kids are exposed to, the more they gravitate toward it. And in that way, it is like anorexia. I just had Kelly J. Keene in a pre-taped show today. She's airing tomorrow. She's an activist on this issue. And she was saying, if you go on YouTube and you Google anorexia or bulimia, they won't show you the videos. But if you Google top surgery, which is the super sweet way of saying a double mastectomy, usually for 15 or 14-year-old girls, you can see all you want all day long. And what's happening more and more is autistic children or children someplace on the spectrum stumble onto this and in many cases have obsessive thinking to begin with and go down a rabbit hole that takes them hours on end down Reddit or one of these other websites. And it does become an obsessive thought and then obsessive behavior. And then you have a medical community that has submitted to affirm. The standard is affirm. Not, are your parents going through a divorce? Did you have really bad grades? Was there a sexual assault in your past? Which is so often the case for a lot of the young girls in particular. No, you're not even allowed to go there, or you're considered engaging in conversion therapy. It's crossover. That's it. Puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. Those 2 things alone in that order, high likelihood you are sterile. You are sterilizing yourself and your parents are allowing it. Just puberty blockers into cross-sex hormones. That's it. Never mind chopping off body parts. And then they'll go to school and they'll say, I'm no longer a girl. And the school will hide it from the people who love that child most, their parents, if the parents aren't on the affirm board. In New York City, where I fled with my children because they were trying to do this to our schools and our classes, that's the policy, private and public. You do not tell the parents. It's a secret. What kind of country are we getting to be where we allow secrets between grown teachers and minors that the parents aren't allowed to know? That's what we used to call grooming, right? It opens up a very dangerous door.
And why has this become politicized? And how has it become politicized?
That I don't understand. I don't understand how, frankly, anyone can vote Democrat right now. I just don't get it. I know that there's a priority of issues, right? And so, for some people, it's...
Oh, David's here. He just woke up.
For some people,
Sacks are Democrat. What?
It's abortion, or it's, I can't think of the issues that would make you vote Democrat, even though I used to vote Democrat. I'm a registered independent. I voted in 8 presidential elections. I voted Democrat 4 times and Republican 4. I'm about as independent as you can get.
Well, let's shift gears to the election then. So,
yeah, you piqued his interest.
I didn't think that was going to be funny, but
So, Megyn, I mean, in addition to being a great broadcaster, you actually are a great political pundit, I would say, and prognosticator. I remember being on your show at the beginning of the Republican primary when DeSantis was riding high, making the case for DeSantis. Obviously, that was totally wrong. And you're like, no, like it's going to be Trump. The Republican Party is not done with Trump, and you were exactly right. What's your take on where things are at right now? And do you have a take on who's going to win?
I mean, of course, we all want to know that, right? That's why we follow these polls religiously, because we want to peek into what's going to happen. I mean, I think Trump right now is better positioned to win than he's ever been in any election before. If you look at where he is, let's take the New York Times Siena poll that just dropped. That's the gold standard. That's the best poll, if you ask most pollsters. Huge sample and likely voters. And it's got Trump up 1, which is basically a tie. Up 1. This time, 4 years ago, Biden was up 9 over Trump. And that election was this tight. And it had Biden up 9.
It said the statistical probability of an electoral college for Trump was 99.7%.
Yeah. If you look at the swing states,
Nate Silver's interpretation of that poll.
Yeah.
That came out. Yeah.
And Nate, now the left is turning on Nate inexplicably, really. I mean, other than his data, but they loved Nate and they created Nate. But now that Nate's numbers aren't going their way, they're like, who's Nate connected to? Who's he working for? Nate, like most prognosticators, wants to be right.
Now, what she's referring to there, I just stumbled upon this the other day when I was looking for something else. I was actually looking for their conversation with Peter Thiel, and I searched Twitter for Peter Thiel because I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't believe they hadn't dropped it yet, and I was looking for it. And I searched for Peter Thiel, and there was just like a wall of replies of leftists freaking out, screaming about Nate Silver, about him working for Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, he's sold out. Peter Thiel, the Dark Lord. Yes, that's right. Seethe. He's our Dark Lord.
But look, I'll say this. And by the way, in 2016, it showed Hillary up 2 at this point. So, and Trump won that election. The general wisdom is that the Democrat has to be up some 4 points or better in the national polling, given the fact they usually win the popular vote, just given how blue the urban centers are, in order to win, in order to cross over in those swing states. And right now, she's not. I mean, that New York Times poll shows her down one.
You were in the middle of the 2016 election. I find this comparison very interesting, so I'm curious your take. Contrast and compare Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. What day is it today? September 9th of that election, and Donald Trump and Kamala Harris September 9th now.
Trump had some advantages back then that he doesn't have now, including his genuine outsider status. It was very attractive to a lot of voters who had never voted before, speaking of getting up off your couch. That really worked for him. And Trump was incredibly vibrant, feisty, fiery, fun, provocative, obviously controversial, and new. We all knew Trump, but we knew him as this crazy New York businessman with a lot of color. And suddenly he morphed onto the political field like unlike anything we'd ever seen. I mean, there was a reference to penis size in a presidential debate. Yeah, I was there. So that happened. This time around, people are a little bit more used to Trump's bits, right? His routine. He's obviously a little older, but still vibrant. I mean, could any of you have stood on that presidential stage and given a nearly 2-hour address a week after someone shot you in the ear? Like, I was falling asleep and I was seated and fine. I'm like, I didn't need. So he's got a lot of energy, but he's not an outsider exactly anymore. He is still one. He's not taking like all the money, these fat cats, and ready to kiss their bottoms necessarily, but he's lost that. What he's gained is a record. Now Trump can go on this debate stage tomorrow night with some real ammo. Were you better off 4 years than you are today? And really point to his policies. And one of the great tragedies of the Trump era has been his policies have been incredibly good for America. Yeah. It's just his rhetoric is so interesting.
Divisive, yeah.
Toxic? Depends on who you ask, right? Depends on who you ask. That
The term toxic has just been destroyed because it exists in the mouths of skeevy little weirdos like J-Cal.
That the majority of Americans dislike him.
And then what about Hillary versus Kamala?
Oh, God. Well, Hillary was smart.
They didn't hide Hillary. Hillary did interviews, right?
I had this conversation just this morning. You can say what you want about Hillary Clinton, but she is incredibly competent.
Yeah.
Incredibly competent.
She's competent, and she could have done the job. How she did it and with what level of honesty and corruption would be a different story. But I really think the problem for Kamala Harris is she's not smart. She's not a deep thinker. She's very surface level. Yeah, she's giggling just like that all the time.
Megyn, tell us how you feel. Really, be honest.
She just totally cooked some dude in the audience. She's spicy.
And it's a cover. It's an obvious cover, right? It's like she gets to the point where she doesn't know what she's saying. Even she doesn't know what she's saying. And it's like, ah! And so you feel uncomfortable watching her. And then she gave her first interview to CNN. And suddenly, if that's drunk Kamala, suddenly we're dealing with hungover Kamala. Like, my values haven't changed. Like clearly somebody had told her, you cackle, we're out of here.
Yeah. What did you think about her bringing her emotional support white guy?
Exactly. Her emotional support governor. He was her big white blankie. Like
I mean,
used
it
to
made
have
no
as a toddler.
sense. Like, it seemed like a terrible strategic decision. Like, who's making the decision to do
I
that?
agree. I objected to the whole thing. I think he was there for two purposes. One was, yes, in case she got in real trouble, he could step in.
Yeah.
And the other was to suck up some of the airtime so she had a couple of fewer questions to answer.
What did you think of the job just broadcaster to broadcaster Dana Bash did? Because she did have some tough questions. She did probe a little bit.
No,
not enough.
She did terribly.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it was particularly hard, but
that was not a good job.
Okay,
And-
explain why.
Okay.
What would you have done differently?
So many things. Go back and listen to my podcast the day after because I just took it apart forensically bit by bit.
Give us the top three here.
Where were the follow-up questions? Where were the
Yes.
hard-hitting follow-ups when she said her nonsense? Like, specifically how? What exactly caused you to change your mind? Walk me through the process. And hit her with all of them, not just a couple. And Tim Walz, grammar? The grammar excuse? That's why he said he carried a weapon into war? It was his grammar? What kind of BS was that?
And no follow-up, yeah.
Yes, and honestly, all
I
it would have
noticed that
taken
too.
was,
Yeah.
do you really want our audience to believe you said you took weapons into war as a soldier? Okay, because every actual service personnel knows you don't exaggerate something like that. That's hallowed ground. You don't say you went into war when you didn't. And he's already on the hot seat for having said, he was a command sergeant major and he didn't retire as such and so on. Anyway, all it would have taken was, you really want this audience to believe that was a grammatical error? Is that your story? No, none of that was done. And it was just irritating because there's so much for Kamala Harris to be cross-examined on, and she went to sleep.
I mean, and
She was meek.
the follow-up question is just such an easy thing to do. You don't even have to say it as aggressively as you did. You just say, okay, so to be clear, let me repeat back to you, grammar is the reason you said
But let me
this.
tell you something. Some aggression was warranted. This is the problem. Her timidity is part of the problem because I challenge anybody.
I was watching this last night and I was like, she is just bang on. She's so sharp and she doesn't give an inch. JK's like, he's always trying to like soften everything or like try to neutralize it all. Just he's so skeevy. And she's like, no. You're not going to soften this. Oh, you didn't have to say it as aggressive as you did. No. You're going to be aggressive. This is why I'm saying Megyn Kelly for press secretary. I'm driving the bus. Come aboard. It's great in here. The AC's great. We got the tunes bumping, listening to schizo edits. It's a good bus. It's a great bus.
Go back and look. I did an interview with Trump in September. We've been through a lot, he and I.
Well, yeah. That's an interesting relationship.
It's a very interesting relationship. And I saw him at a Turning Point event the previous August, and I said, I'd love to sit down with you. He said, great, I'll do it. So we sat down in September of last year. It was a great interview. It was challenging. He was not in love with it. Good.
Which part?
Where I hammered him on the legal stuff.
Yeah.
It had a crescendo and a decrescendo like every good interview should. We started off with some stuff that he would like. Joe Biden's old. How about that? And then you build.
You warmed him up. Classic strategy, right?
So on the legal, on the lawfare, so Judge Mershon just moved the sentencing date from, I guess it was supposed to be a few days ago, to November 18th. It occurs to me that's 2 weeks after the election. So if
Here comes her and JKal having another little spat, and she just absolutely spit roasts him.
Mershon wants to send Trump to prison, but is afraid to do it now because it'd be a huge backlash for the election. Seems to me that's kind of what you do. You set the date 2 weeks after. What's your take on that? Do you think
he gets elected,
if Trump loses the election, do you think he's going to Rikers?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
I
Okay.
think there's a possibility Mershon will sentence him because this whole case, which was about him writing down something in a book no one ever saw, it was in a book that stayed on the shelf at Trump Tower, didn't have the right thing. It didn't say hush money to Stormy Daniels. It said legal services. No one ever saw that. Just someone came knocking because they wanted to mess with Trump, found it and said this isn't recorded accurately. It's a fraud, and he got prosecuted. And I think Judge Mershon has allowed Alvin Bragg to turn it into, you tried to steal the election because now, guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you ever want to run for office, you have an ethical obligation to let any woman accusing you of any bad stuff come forward and say it to everyone. And if she says, I won't hurt you publicly, whether it's true or not, if you just give me $130,000, you may not pay her or you're going to go to jail. So you must let yourself be blackmailed. Let someone say this stuff about you, true or not, or you're going to prison. That's how that case was tried. That is now the position that every politician is in, theoretically.
I mean, the case made sense as a misdemeanor, but not as a felony. I think
No,
you
it
would
made
agree.
no sense. I mean, as a misdemeanor, the statute of limitations had expired.
Sure, but
Long
I mean,
since.
it clearly was escalated to a point. But I wonder how you think, as with family members, in the, that are cops, how you look at the other cases, and if you think there's any validity to them. Because there are 5 cases we're talking about. He's guilty of the first 3 so far out of 3. Some of them feel trumped up. But what about the last 2? You know, the documents and the January 6th one. Do you think there's any validity to them?
No validity.
Zero.
The only thing that Trump was potentially in trouble on, and the thing I hit him on when we interviewed, was not turning over the documents once he had a subpoena.
Which would have been so easy to do.
Yes, but
which was dumb. But he's Trump.
He should have turned them over.
He always does self-destructive stuff.
But that one's gone away now too because of Jack Smith not being properly appointed down there. But in answer to your question on Judge Merchan, I think he almost is in a position where he might have to sentence him to jail given how big they've tried to make it. You stole an election. But it would be at a suspended sentence. It would be immediately appealed. And I think Trump on appeal will win. There are so many holes in that case, so I don't think Trump will ever do one single day in jail.
So Megyn, if we look at the 5 cases, 6 months from now, or a year from now, let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
I love this. Eugene Carroll was guilty.
That was
Watch Chamath.
not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, so that's what I'm talking about. So that
but there's a big difference.
It's still, he was convicted. He was guilty of that. He got a settlement. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
That, again, was still civil, libel.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one,
you know she's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, of course. And in the third one, I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look at all 5 cases,
3 convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's 3 in which he was.
You should walk it back.
I'm so glad Megyn is here.
Of the 5,
to
3 of them,
this.
he's either guilty or
you got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megyn, at 5 of 5, he had a bad result. Way to frame it. Will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and/or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5, 5 different.
She just is absolutely dog walking him. She's not backing down. I'm going to ask her the hard question. And she's like, sit down, pussy. Yes, 100%. All 5 of them are motivated and corrupt. What now?
Jurisdictions, you think it's all
Eugene
lawfare.
Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit against him, and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6th defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. She just threw it out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about...
I think Jay Cal just lost his right to ever bring up lawfare again.
No,
we're done with your bullshit. It's over.
We're not here to hear my opinion. I didn't give my opinion. I wanted Megyn.
That's my job as Democratic Party. And
that's my job as moderator. I didn't give my opinion. I didn't give my opinion. Did you hear the words I used? I wasn't using my opinion. I'm neutral and objective and impartial. This guy's this is the profile of the conservative ink guy. He may not have the same I don't know, like sound of voice and be as quite as smarmy, although some of them are, but that's the exact same, this like faux neutrality and impartiality and I am objective. I have an independent mind. I think independently. A pox on all of these men.
the Republican Party, 2028, post all of this, okay? I suspect because of your influence, so tell me if this is not even true, but up-and-coming folks are probably trying to meet you all the time because they want to build a relationship, build a rapport, so that when it's time for them to get, interviewed or whatever, so you must see a lot of people. Just give us a state of politicians post this current batch.
Well,
what is the same?
I don't feel very optimistic.
Okay. Is it getting worse?
Yeah, it's getting worse because of Instagram and AOC, that kind of person. Yes, her specifically, but not just her.
Say more.
They want, these are congressional Kardashians. Can I tell you something? My experience in the news business dealing with politicians leads me to believe that the people in this room and on this stage over your 2-day conference are the people we need to be looking to for our future leaders and ideas and to save the country. It's not Washington, D.C. All the incentives to be a good person are gone. It's not that there aren't any good ones. There definitely are. And there's some, true patriots who are still trying to serve and even
Who are two people just on either side that you would just tell us to look out for, or even if they are already doing the job where you say, these two people are like good people?
You should play the little Jeopardy music right now. No one's coming to mind off the top of my head, but I know that there are some. Look, I like Rand Paul.
Okay.
I think Rand Paul is a good and honest man.
Don't run a giant deficit. It's not a bad
I mean, all of them lie, so I'm not trying to excuse all of that. They all do.
Libertarian is happy. He said Ron Paul. Oh, yeah. Don't run a giant deficit. Can we talk about the deficit, guys? I like Freeberg. He's funny.
But if you watch people long enough, you find the ones that stand up for the right issues and seem to have some integrity. That's one that comes to mind. There used to be a day where they would reach across the aisle, and they actually weren't just there for clicks or to make themselves famous, and those days are few and far between now. I just think look, I supported the Supreme Court's decision in Citizen United. I think big money in politics was always going to happen, but it's corrupted the system in a way that, most politicians only have to answer to their one group of big donors or their one small constituency in their one very red or very blue town.
I like how she's talking to a bunch of big donors who have very prominently just inserted themselves in politics.
And there's no more incentive to compromise. There's only incentive to get reelected, which is one of the frustrations we have when we watch Washington. Nothing gets done, or sighs of relief in this Congress where we watch Washington and nothing gets done. Right now.
Yeah, I like Chamath as well. He's had himself his own fair share of little scandals. He likes to drop some spicy bombs. He speaks a little too freely sometimes. I can't remember the substance of a particular issue that he got himself in a bunch of hot water on something. I want to say it was the Uyghurs in China, and on the All In podcast, this was 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and he was basically like, yeah, we don't care. It, like, nobody cares about that sort of, like, stuff happening far away. Like, yeah, it's sad, it sucks what's happening to him, but like, what about here at home? What about the stuff that matters to people here? And he got absolutely dragged over the coals for it. So there's a spicy boy inside there. Should I make a curry joke? Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
I'm all about going back to the original founding version of this country where government was as small as possible.
Yeah.
The presidency was as small as possible. And these people do as little as humanly possible while they're in the office.
Megyn, I feel like someone should do like a modern day recap of the Federalist Papers, like an understanding of.
Never stop being yourself, David Freeberg. First of all, it's interesting the clap that she gets from the audience. The audience loves the idea of they now see DC as a place of what is it, a hub of scum and villainy, or hive of scum and villainy. And she gets a big clap for that. And then he's like, you know what someone should do? We should have a modern day Federalist Papers.
Of the basis of the foundation of the republic, like what were the founding philosophies, and then understanding how far astray we've gone. But let me ask you a question: what constitutional amendments would you pass to fix the incentive problems? If you could have your druthers pass any constitutional amendment or two, what would they be to address the incentive issue that's causing a lot of the integrity and misalignment?
I don't think it starts like that. I think it is just like Kamala Harris's choice as Biden's replacement. It's bottom up. It's bottom up. That's the lie. Remember they told us, Chuck Schumer, it's bottom up. The people chose her. Literally nobody's voted for her to be the nominee. I think this one does have to be bottom up. Like, if we're going to change the way we elect politicians and the way we govern ourselves, it's so much more complex than just what laws are written down. And tech has a lot to do with it. How divided we are, how disconnected we are, how lonely we are. I mean, right now, the latest strain of the argument is interesting, which is all the processed foods are making us weird and unhealthy and dying and dividing people further because it's driving our hormones nuts and our behavior is getting weirder.
And obese.
Yeah, and obesity. So, I mean, there's just a lot we need to reconsider about the way we're living. And I do think one of the main things is we need to see each other again. We need to look at each other in the eye across from the table. We need to ban our kids from playing on the devices when they get together for play dates. We must insist that they play outside without any devices and actually connect with nature. We must make sure that they do the same. We must get out of the coastal cities and go to flyover country and go to a rodeo in Montana, something like that. You know, we have to start loving our country again. That's a huge piece of it. And that again is community. You know, speaking of rodeo in Montana, we go out there. We have a little ski cabin there, which we love. And we went in the summer, brought our kids to a rodeo. They started playing the national anthem. And my little guy at the time was like 5. And he was a little slow to get up, right? Like he knows to get up. But he was 5. And there's this old cowboy sitting right behind us with the big hat and the jeans and the belt. And he goes, "Boy, you better get on your feet." And my son was like, "Oh shit."
Yes, sir.
That was me. But I was like, right on.
Well, that's great.
Right on. That's what
great.
we need, right? Like more of that and more of looking out for one another, not with forced taxes and through the eyeballs and all that nonsense, but like your neighbor's sick, go make him a casserole. Your older neighbor is housebound, go mow her lawn. That is the stuff that used to make us us. And as we just retreat into our devices and our television screens and all of it, we lose that and we lose us.
All right. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, Megyn Kelly. Thank you. Whoa, standing up. That was awesome. Really awesome.
And you're black pilling. I could never. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you hanging out, putting up with the brief intermission as I assisted my wife. Shout out to Drunk Plato. He has become a member of the King Pilled. For $5, you too can become a channel member. Welcome aboard, sir. All right. Well, it is Friday, so I have to remind you guys, I played this yesterday, but I'm going to play it here once more. I'm not going to read along in the captions and everything. I'll just give you the gist of it. If you want to know, there's captions on this one here. You'll want to watch it closely. This is what we will be learning about tonight on the Schizo stream in the King Pill Discord. Imagine it's basically like what we just did. We sit and watch a video, and except imagine if you guys weren't just chatting in the live chat, but you were actually on video with me, watching, chatting, discussing. We'll watch the video, and then we'll probably be late into the night discussing, drinking, smoking, whatever we happen to do. We'd love to have you join us. Kingpill.com. Join the King Pill Discord server. That's where the Schizo stream will happen this evening, starting around 8 p.m. Central. This video is a teaser for the one that we're going to be watching. And this is the video that we will be watching. Where was it? It was here in the replies. Oh, there's actually a whole bunch of them. Oh, man, we got a lot of content for tonight. The Monument Mythos. I have absolutely no idea what I'm getting myself into, what I'm getting the rest of you into. This video is the first time I ever heard of it. Faithful Faustian says, Wendigoon has a good breakdown in this anthology. So I've got some more stuff to Google before we get started tonight. But as always, we must end with Hulk. So do me a favor, hit the like button on your way out. We got over 100. We got 105 likes, over 100 during the live stream. Thank you guys. Very much appreciate you. If you haven't hit the like button yet, do it. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter @RealKingPilled. And we will end with Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough.